All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close. It is Thursday, January 30th, and in about 20 minutes, we are going to get earnings from Visa, Intel, and one of the Mag 7s, which is going to be Apple. We had Microsoft yesterday. We had Meta yesterday. We had Tesla yesterday. We got a lot to talk about in terms of those names, along with NVIDIA. That is probably going to close right on the day, but at least it's rebounding a little bit from that 118 range. And then we got Apple. Apple's going to be a really important one. Obviously, Apple is one of the darlings of not only the Max 7, but the broader stock market. Apple is down from 260 to 240 to start the year. And a lot of people are doubting if Apple deserves this valuation, but a lot of people also realize that Apple has a lot of cash to buy back their stock. So today, Tim Cook is going to show us what Apple has been up to over the past 90 days and hopefully give us some good guidance going into 2025. Now, before we get into it, and for those asking about the CARP interview, that is happening tomorrow. It was not able to happen today because of the Trump press conference, which delayed it. So 11 a.m. tomorrow, I'll be live in the Market Open. We will cover CARP on CNBC tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be live. I think it's pre-recorded, but we will see it likely tomorrow. Okay, so before we get into Apple, we got a lot of headlines. Like a lot of headlines. We got 12 minutes until the market closes. I'm going to try to get through all these headlines. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. The first headline, which I wasn't going to start with this, but this broke like 4 minutes before I went live today. And it's probably why the market's taking a little bit of a dump right now. Trump just announced a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico due to their inability to control fentanyl smuggling into the United States. I don't know if this is actually going to happen. He announced it. I don't think he signed it into law or anything like that, but he said that this is the plan and what he wants to do. Also, it's very consistent with what he said the day he got inaugurated, the first executive order. During the press conference, he was asked when he's going to start putting on tariffs, and he said February 1st. Well, today's January 30th. February 1st is coming up, so maybe he's getting ready to get the world to realize that he wasn't messing around. The dollar, as soon as this news broke, again, 5 minutes ago, went from 107.5. We were making so much progress on the dollar. Like it was finally coming below 108, potentially going below 107, spiked back up to 108.11 right now. And the 10-year, which has been a little bit better than what it was today, still down, which is good. I think the 10-year is just not really believing that Trump's actually going to put on this tariff. This one's still red on the day, which is good, but it is a little elevated from where it was earlier before this announcement ended up coming out. So I don't know, dude. I don't really believe Trump's going to put a 25% tariff. I mean, maybe, maybe not. I think it's hard for anyone to officially believe if it's going to happen, but the fact that he's saying it maybe is a negotiation tactic and a bargaining tactic to get Mexico and Canada to start trying to control fentanyl. But we're going to see how that plays out over the next couple of days. So that was the first headline, and that's why the market's struggling a little bit as we get into the close. The bigger headline of the day, which I think let's start with this. As per the Wall Street Journal, OpenAI is in talks to raise a new round of $40 billion in funding at a $340 billion valuation. This is insanity. And the reason it's insanity is because, and this is what's making me want to buy more NVIDIA. The whole week, we've seen the collapse of at least 17% of one of the best tech companies in the world, NVIDIA, losing $600 billion in market cap because the argument was that LLM foundation model creators are commodities. If a company in China could do the same exact thing with less amount of GPUs or with less amount of spend. Now, obviously, there's nuance to that story. They probably did have a ton of GPUs, et cetera. But the point is, everyone's waking up to the fact that LLMs are a commodity. I don't understand how OpenAI can go from 150, which they raised in October, to 340 in the span of what, 3 months? Off of, I don't think anything's necessarily changed on the thesis. I mean, yeah, they got some more users, which is nice. But if anything, NVIDIA, the infrastructure for why OpenAI is here today, lost $600 billion. Why would that money go to OpenAI? Why would it not go to the software providers? Why would it not go to the cloud computing providers like the hyperscalers that are going to essentially create the next generation infrastructure for all the companies that want to utilize the commoditized model? Why is it going to the company that is building a commoditized model? Well, there's two answers. Number one, investors are stupid, and that investor would be SoftBank investing about 15 to 25 billion in the round. They would be leading the round. I don't know where the hell SoftBank's getting all this money from, but I guess they're getting the money from somewhere. And so they're thinking of putting in another 15 to 25 billion out of the 40 billion they're raising. So I guess the street's going to find another 15 billion to partake in this round. So the first answer is either investors are stupid, right? SoftBank has made some, I don't want to be mean, but stupid investments before. I mean, WeWork, right? Like they've made some bad investments before, or something is happening in OpenAI that we don't know about. And I think we all got to be humble enough to be like, all right, so if investors are going to bid this thing up to 340 billion after it was 150 billion, less than 3 months later, literally less than 3 months later, then maybe we don't really understand what's happening at OpenAI. Maybe their foundation model is going to be something that's bigger than what we can imagine. It's going to be better than Anthropic. It's going to be better than XAI. They're going to have different use cases. They're working on different products no one knows about. Maybe, because I don't get how the market saw what they saw this week, which collapsed NVIDIA, which, by the way, is recovering right now on this OpenAI news, because I think the market's like, wait a second. OpenAI is probably going to take a lot of that 40 billion and dump it back into NVIDIA. But So at least it's bullish for NVIDIA. But I don't see how the market is interpreting this as something that deserves to be commoditized or deserves to get more money if it is a commodity, because maybe it's not a commodity, the LLM, or it is a commodity and investors are just being really stupid. But in this economic environment where there's so many opportunities, I don't understand why SoftBank would want to be quote unquote stupid, right? Like there's so many different ways they can get access to AI. I mean, hell, SoftBank could just buy more NVIDIA stock theoretically. Like there's so many different ways to play the AI trade. The fact that they're doubling down, forget doubling down, quadrupling down on their OpenAI investment, which by the way, I think they invested $1 billion in the $157 billion fundraise. So now they're 25xing the $1 billion to $25 billion in the next fundraise. There's got to be something we don't know about, or there's got to be an over-reliance on GPUs that is real, and that inevitably will be good for NVIDIA. So that was the first headline of the day. Kind of crazy. We'll get more updates on this later. Let's check out how Oklo is doing right now. Oklo's probably benefiting from this news. Yeah, wow, 18%, baby. There you go. Why would they go up 18%? Well, nuclear energy is going to be more in demand if Sam Altman raises another 40 billion and starts buying more GPUs and building more data centers. SMCI is up 2.45% of the news. Again, NVIDIA is the only one that's not green yet. It's very close to going green, and I think it'll get there. We got 6 minutes left, but this would be the news to go green. This is, by the way, there you go, NVIDIA's green. This is, by the way, happening after Trump announced the tariffs. So after Trump announces the tariffs, which is relatively bearish for the broader market, the OpenAI news, I think, is what's saving NVIDIA right here, and just showing the market that there might be more demand than what we thought. Also, the S&P 500 is up 0.5%, so the tariff news is not really taking it down. There was a little bit of a retracement, but we look like we're still going to end green for the day. Nubank is up 7%. Robinhood, incredible day, was at 53.50. Great day for Hood, 52.76. If we could close above 52.50, I would be happy. Google at 202, that's up 2.7%. Alibaba, phenomenal day, that's up 6%. Microsoft is down 6%. Earnings weren't the best in terms of guidance. And then Tesla right here ending the day probably at 401, up 3.29% right now. I have no idea how to interpret this OpenAI news, but I know I bought 110 shares of NVIDIA today, and my average is now 126. I have 400 shares. I kind of continue to believe this is the dumbest sell-off ever, and I never thought I would own this much NVIDIA, but I guess here we are. So I want to get to another 100 shares. It would be a full 500. Maybe we'll do that this week or next week, but I don't know, dude. If OpenAI is raising another 40 billion, how much of that? I would imagine at least 30 to 40% of that money is going back into NVIDIA GPUs, if not more, to build their next foundation model. And if that's the case, then NVIDIA should be able to catch bid. Now, here's the next headline that's kind of crazy today. The parents of former FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried are working on securing a pardon from President Trump, as per Bloomberg. Sam Bankman, I think a lot of you guys know, some of you guys might have been affected by the FTX catastrophe that happened 2 years ago. He is serving 25 years in prison for criminal negligence on behalf of essentially frauding his investors that thought that their money was safe in FTX. Look, if this happens, I know Trump is very crypto friendly. I get it, but I do not think the crypto ecosystem would be happy with it. Maybe some parts of the crypto community would be okay with it because they thought Sam was a innovator, even though he was also a frauder. But I think the far majority of people in crypto want the FTX stain to like get off of the crypto community. They don't want to idolize this guy. And he essentially was an idol for 2 years before everything collapsed. I mean, he was seen as like the next big genius. And investors were investing at FTX at a $32 billion valuation. Back in 2021, I think they were barely doing $1 billion of revenue. And people really believed in him being the next Charles Schwab, essentially. If Trump pardoned him, I don't know how the crypto community would interpret that. And speaking of the crypto community, Michael Saylor made the cover of Forbes, the Bitcoin alchemist. Now, if you know anything about the cover of Forbes, sometimes the people who make the cover of Forbes don't end up having their companies go in the right direction, aka Elizabeth Holmes from Theranos and Sam Bankman-Fried, ironically, from FTX. But also, there's people that make the cover of Forbes that do very well. So, I mean, I don't think that's that big of a deal. But he did make headlines today as he is the new Bitcoin alchemist that is on the cover of Forbes. Gurjop says he's handsome. He is indeed a handsome guy. So look, from the crypto perspective, I guess we're going to see how the community reacts to FTX and Saylor doing what they're doing. MicroStrategy, by the way, Bitcoin has moved to 105 today. MSTR is down. I talked to a couple MicroStrategy bulls today, and a lot of them were saying, hey, we think he's continuing to do. I talked to Adam today, who's been in MicroStrategy for a long time. He thinks that the at-the-money dilutions are continuing to happen. He's also a little afraid going into next week on their earnings, because he thinks MSTR might announce another round of dilution, which obviously is not the best thing in the world. You're selling stock to shareholders in order to raise money, not doing the 0% coupon rates. So that is one fear that some of the MSTR bulls have. But Mizuho did initiate coverage with a $515 price target. So maybe, there's other parts of the street that are seeing some value in MSTR. But Bitcoin overall today is a little bit red, but it did hit 106 right now, currently at 105.1. Reddit is down 1% on the day. HIMS is up 6% on the day. Didn't see that. Twilio is up 1.5%. Shout out to BM, up 12.85% on the day. That is not bad. Block as well. XYZ, that's up 3% on the day. We got the market close in about a minute and a half. All of the back sevens are green except Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. Apple will have earnings after the bell. I think it comes out at 4:10. So we'll have to wait a little bit, but we should get Visa and Intel pretty soon. Tesla 400, NVIDIA, wow, 124. Look at that. NVIDIA, 124. Oklo as well, rebounding off of NVIDIA's gains. So that's great for Oklo, up 18%. Nuclear energy is catching a bit today, but Oklo up 18%. NVIDIA, 124. Again, I think NVIDIA is up, and maybe it's a little bit of a technical dead cat bounce again, which would be the third time it bounced this week. But I really do think the OpenAI news is getting the market to be like, okay, so obviously Sam Altman's raising another $40 billion because he needs to spend that money, and he's not spending it on, snacks at the office. He's probably spending it. Well, to be honest, he probably is spending it on snacks at the office because he's getting some chips, baby. Okay, having said that, Thursday, January 30th, how long do we have till the market close? We got 30 seconds. 30 seconds, folks, going into earnings. We've got Deckers, we've got Atlassian, we've got Intel, we've got Visa, and we've got Apple on the deck. It is time to see if the best companies in the world can perform and justify some of the momentum that they're showing here today. All right, here we go. Thursday, January 30th. We got a lot of earnings coming up. The stock market is now closed. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at what happened throughout the street before we get into earnings. I think it's going to take at least a couple minutes before we get some results. So let's just take a look at how some of these stocks ended, and then we'll get back to the earnings for today. So first of all, Max 7, Apple is flat. We're going to see earnings in a bit. Microsoft ended down 6%. Nasty day for Microsoft. Meta, it did hit 716, went back to 687. So that's up about 2% of the day. Google, great day for Google. I bought 50 shares at 195, I think on Monday. So Google right here at 203, ending on the day up 2.7%. Amazon as well, 234. NVIDIA, 124.67, gets a green close, up 1% after falling to 118 today. So not bad on NVIDIA. And then Tesla right here at 400.28. Palantir, Carp will be live on CNBC tomorrow, 81.22. Not too bad for Palantir. Got the $81 close, up 1.83% on the day. And Hood, wow, we got the $53 close. We got the $53 close. There you go. I love it. We got it. We actually, it makes sense. It had great momentum all day. $53 close on Hood. Morningstar did upgrade their Palantir price target from $21 to $79. We'll read that in a little bit, but they did upgrade their Palantir price target after like a year and a half from 21 to 79. And we'll talk more about why they upgraded that later throughout the show. S&P 500, 6,071. That was up 0.5%. ELF was down a little bit on the day. Actually, it was up 1%, down a little bit after hours. Amazon, again, was up on the day. Shout out to China. Great day for China. FXI up 2.4%. Alibaba up 6.24%. IWM was up about 1%. Bitcoin, again, 105,000. Reddit was down 1.5%. Ride was up a little bit. It was up 6%. HIMS was up 6%. Incredible day for them. IBM, again, up 12%. And then SoFi, also a good day, up 2.81%. So not bad for SoFi. Okay, earnings. We got Intel that's down 2%. Intel is down 2%. Here you go, 1950. Let me see if I can get results for Intel. I think that's the first one we have starting off. But let's see. Intel is down 1.4%. It's not a dramatic move, but it is a move. Visa's up 0.5% after hours. Let me know in the chat if anyone owns these. Oh, by the way, let me do the poll, the final Apple pump or dump poll. So let's put that in the chat. And let's see what everyone thinks. Let's see what you think. Apple pump or dump. There probably won't be a crazy pump or dump, but it will be green or red, one of those. But it's, you know, I think it's going to be within 2 to 3%. Apple doesn't move 7 to 8% or anything like that. So we'll see in about 10 minutes what they look like. Visa's up 0.5%. Intel is down 2%. Looks like Intel didn't have the best earnings. Let's pull up those numbers and see what we get from Intel. All right, here we go. It's a double beat. Not too bad. It's a double beat. It's not too bad. It's a double beat. We've got 13 cents versus 12 cents on EPS. That is a beat. And on revenue, we have 14.2 versus 13.8. That is also a beat. Guidance is going to be the most important thing for Intel. I would imagine their guidance might not be the best given they are in a transition phase. Here we go. We got the result. We pull it up. But that might be why the stock is showing a little bit of weakness right now.
The chip designer is what we're seeing is posting EPS of 13 cents. That is a penny beat on revenues of 14.3 billion with Q4 gross margins also slightly higher than the street estimate at 42.1%. It's their Q1 guide. That is a bit softer than Wall Street hoped. They're projecting revenue around 12.2 billion. That's the midpoint below the 12.87 billion Wall Street expected. And those margins, they're also heading down. John, I know you and I just got off the phone about an hour ago with the Intel's interim CEOs, co-CEOs, I should say, where Michelle Holthaus explained the margin squeeze. It turns out for products like Lunar Lake, they're buying memory components from vendors and selling them at a cost, which really impacts margins, and they expect margins to be a little bit lower throughout the year. As for the light Q1 guide, she talked it up to being typical seasonality and then some early purchases in Q4 due to tariff concerns. She also confirmed they expect a ramp in PC sales in the second half of this year. John?
All right. Christina Parts-Nevelis.
Their gross margins are up by 3%. So that's not horrible, especially for a hardware company. It's nice to see their gross margins going up. But their overall demand is obviously having a little bit of a issue if their guidance is not that good going into Q1. But the market kind of likes it, I guess. Now it's green. It's up 1%. You got Apple, that's flat after hours. Visa's up 0.5%. I'll try to get their numbers. Deckers is also flat. Deckers, by the way, for those that don't know, is in the S&P 500. So it is a $33 billion company. They sell a lot of outdoor gear. Shoes is probably what you know them for. But they are a rather big company. Intel now rebounding up 1.4%. Looks like the market likes it, at least for now. 1.4%. Intel's tangible book value, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think is $18, or it might be like $17.50. So if it goes below 18, it is legit trading underneath book value. And so you know, one would think, all right, this is the bottom. As long as the company doesn't absolutely crap the bed over the next couple of years, this would be the time to accumulate. I'm not a big Intel guy. I'd honestly just rather buy NVIDIA on this dip versus Intel. But I do know the Intel bulls feel that enough is enough in terms of the pain, and they think this thing can turn around. Intel right here up 0.95% after hours. Visa, let me see if I can get their numbers. Visa is a relatively large company as well, 672 billion. I didn't even know they were that big, dude. I thought they were 200 billion. It's almost 700 billion for Visa. This is a big company. So their earnings definitely are going to be important as well. And maybe some thoughts on the state of the consumer would be important for Visa. We don't have Visa earnings yet. We don't have Visa earnings yet. Intel's book value is 24. Really? Oh, so it's already trading under tangible book. I thought it was 18 for some reason. All right, if I'm wrong on that, then that proves the bulls' points. It's like, all right, it's already trading below tangible book. At some point, this thing has got to catch a bid. Atlassian, oh my goodness, 19%. Oh my, that's pretty big. 19% on Atlassian. For those that don't know this company, it does project management software, $70 billion company, ticker symbol TEAM. Let's see if we can get those results. This is a software play. It's not really an AI SaaS, but it is obviously a SaaS. There's, I would imagine, some AI components to it, even if it's not literally an AI play. But that's a big one. 16% on Atlassian. Huh. 21%. Never mind. This is one of the best performances we've seen throughout the entire market for Q4. Beat and a beat, a beat and a beat. All right, so they beat EPS 96 cents versus 76 cents. That's a 20-cent beat. And then they beat revenue 1.28 versus 1.24 billion. That's a good beat, but it's not a crazy beat. It's not like an insane beat. So I'm curious what's getting the street excited about this one, potentially on guidance. Oh, Decker's down. Decker's down. Deckers hit the deck. That one is down 10.6%. This is the company that is in the S&P 500. And they joined the S&P 500, I think, of June of 2024, so relatively recently. Their numbers are out. They beat on the top and the bottom. 259 was expected. They had $3 of EPS, so that is a nice beat by about 41 cents. And then revenue, 1.82 billion versus 1.73 billion. That is also a beat on revenue. So something in the guide, which is what the market really cares about for 2025, I guess, is upsetting certain sectors of the market, down 10.6%. Apple, again, still flat. Visa, also flat. Intel's up 2.4%. Atlassian, up 19%. Deckers, down 10.4% on the day. Visa is out. Let me pull up Visa. Visa, we got a beat and a beat. A beat and a beat. 275 versus 270 or 266 for Visa. That is a 9-cent beat on EPS, and then 9.5 billion versus 9.34 billion. That is also a beat on revenues. Small beat, but a good enough beat. Let's pull up some coverage right here on Visa, and then we'll keep going from there.
It rose 10% to 9.5 billion.
Start to see that.
Okay. In the meantime, Visa earnings are out. Hugh Son has the numbers for us. Hi, Hugh.
Hey, Morgan. Yeah. So Visa just reported fiscal first quarter results that look like a beat on both the top and the bottom lines. Revenue rose 10% to 9.5 billion, above the $9.34 billion estimate. Profit on an adjusted basis rose 14% to $2.75 per share, also better than the $2.66 estimate. Like Amex and MasterCard before them, Visa said their results reflect strong holiday spending and improving payments volumes, signs of a still healthy consumer. Total payments volumes at Visa rose 9% in the quarter, while cross-border transactions jumped 16%. The stock was up about 0.4%. Last I checked, 0.56%. Back to you guys.
Cool. So Visa crushed it. They said that the consumer is healthy. That is also a good thing. We'll probably get more color on their consumer commentary on the call. I'm going to read the transcript tonight on Visa, or not just Visa. I'm going to try to get a lot, because I haven't done this yet. I'm going to try to get a lot of these earnings that are hyper specific to the consumer, like American Express as well, and try to see what exactly these CEOs are saying about the consumer. Are they warning anything for 2025? I know a lot of you guys are seeing these headlines about credit delinquencies going higher. One of the headlines I saw today was that the minimum monthly payment on a credit card is at its lowest level ever in terms of being paid. So if you have to pay, I don't know, $500 a month on your credit card or $200 a month, the percentage of people even making that minimum payment is at the lowest level ever. So definitely would like to hear from Visa and American Express in terms of what's going on with consumer credit. Now, we also have KLAC earnings. This is a semiconductor company. They beat 820 versus 776 on EPS. That's a beat to 3.07 billion versus 2.95 billion on revenue. So there you go. Another company in the semiconductor space. We don't talk about them too much. Ticker symbol KLAC. They're a $99 billion company. They're up 4% right now after hours. They're also up 4% during the day. So up 8% on the day off of a beat on the top and the bottom. Visa now is up about 2%. Intel's up 2%. Atlassian's still up 16%. And Deckers right here is down 10.4% on the day. I think Apple comes out at 4:15. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it should be out relatively soon. The call starts at 5, so I would imagine 4:15, 4:20 is going to be the latest. So in about 5 minutes, we should officially have Apple, and that's going to be the big one for the day. 60% of you say dump on the poll. 40% of you say pump on Apple. Put in the chat if you own Apple. Put in the chat if you own Apple stock. I imagine there has to be some of you that have owned this name probably for a decade plus. Some people that just have owned it forever. So let's see if people kind of own this name and which direction this one goes after earnings. Apple right here up 0.26% after hours. Again, Apple for the year is down, I think about 7% year to date. It is down, never mind, 2.5%. It feels like it's down a lot more, but Apple was at 260. I think at the peak of December, not in January. It was at the peak of December, it was at 260. And now it's right here at 237. Wow, a lot of you guys own it. ES, guys, 8,000 shares of Apple. There you go. Johnny has some Apple. Samir is, I've owned Apple for 15 years. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought if you're a little bit older, you've probably owned Apple for a long time because it was just one of those stocks. How crazy is it going to be one day in the future where some YouTuber's going to be like, how many of you guys own Palantir? And I'm going to be in the chat. I'm like, I owned Palantir for like 30 years. It's like, that'll be crazy, bro. That'll be so crazy. Apple right here. We should get results in about 3 minutes, up 0.24%. Intel's up, Visa's up, Atlassian is up, Deckers is down, and KLAC is up 4% right now after the bell. Let's see where these numbers are and if they can come out right here. Andy says, I've always owned Apple. I use Apple products so much. I've never owned the stock, but I think I bought it in like 2021 and I sold it off like a 10% gain. It was nothing meaningful, but I did have it. And that was in the 140s. I think I bought it at 120, sold it at 140, but it was a while ago. So I have not really revisited it since then. Okay, so we are waiting for Apple, but before we do that, we have another headline. So we talked about the FTX headline that Sam Bankman-Fried's parents, who are very wealthy and very well connected, are potentially looking to secure a presidential pardon from Trump. So that was one of the headlines that we had today. Then we had the OpenAI headline of raising $350 billion. Here's another headline that we had today. Amazon has said that they are increasing their ad spending on X. So it looks like some money is coming back to the X platform from Amazon. And my take here was that I think Bezos saw Zuck's looking at his girl, and he took all of Amazon's ad spend from Meta and gave it to Elon instead. So that is my take on this news. I think sometimes a man has to be a man. But nonetheless, Amazon increasing their ad spend on X should be good for Elon and hopefully get some more money coming into that platform as well. Apple right here, 238.2, still waiting on the results. I think in about a minute, we're going to get it. While we're waiting, let's go to Deckers. We have Deckers right here, and then we should get Apple soon.
256 estimates, revenues of 1.83 billion versus the 1.73 billion estimate. Looking at the stock down more than 10%. The question is, what is behind that? If you look at the full year guidance, this is the company's fiscal third quarter. So for the full year guidance, they're guiding to earnings per share between 575 and 580. The estimate is 563. So that is above estimates. But the revenue guidance for the full year of 4.9 billion is just below the estimates of 4.93 billion. So given the strength of this quarter, that indicates that perhaps next quarter will be weaker than analyst expectations. And just quickly, Hoka, which has been a huge growth.
Okay, I think Apple is out. Give me a second. I think Apple is out. Do we have it? I think we're about to get it in 2 seconds. Just hold on. Well, first of all, let me see the stock. Is the stock reacting? Apple should be out right now. Apple is up 1/3%, not really reacting. Let's see if I can pull this up here. Apple, nope, not out on this source. Let's try something else. It should be out either right now or literally in 20 seconds. We should be getting it very, very soon. Isn't it 4:30? Is it? Actually, I think you guys are right. No, I think it's 4:20. No, you guys, I made the same mistake last time. It's probably 4:20. No, I think it's 4:30. It's definitely not 4:15. You guys are right. It was not 4:15 last time. It was definitely in that half hour range. So, all right, it might be 4:20 then. So we'll just wait another 5 minutes and we should get it soon. But we should be getting it very soon. Let's get the coverage on Atlassian and then we'll go from there. One of the things some of you guys said in the chat about Deckers does have a ton of China exposure. So if we have more tariffs as well, that could be the street reacting to that. And Deckers, I would imagine, exports to Canada, Mexico, et cetera, because they sell shoes, which go across the world. So that could be another reason why Deckers is down here today.
Modi has the details. Seema.
Morgan, this is one of those software names that provides productivity software to data centers. Earnings and revenue handily beat street expectations thanks to a 30% year-over-year jump in subscription growth. CFO says strong enterprise sales execution driving better than expected revenue across both cloud and data centers. Q3 guidance also above consensus, and that is what is helping shares outperform by 19% here in overtime, John and Morgan.
Yeah, nicely above. As well. Seema Modi, thank you. Meantime, shares of Intel are now higher by almost.
Okay, so it should be 420. We should get it in 3 minutes, but we should be getting it soon. Here's the KLA coverage real quick, and then we should be getting Apple.
$3 billion. So that was a beat on the guide. And I'll just read one quick line here. KLA's December quarter results were above the midpoint of their guide ranges, despite navigating through the business impact of new U.S. government export controls released late in the quarter. And you can see the stock jumping 4% on this news. John, Morgan?
All right, Christina.
Okay, half of you guys are saying 430. Half of you guys are saying 420. I'm the one hosting the stream. I'm supposed to be the one who has the answer to this, and I do not have the answer. I think it's 420, but maybe I just want it to be 420 because it's closer than 430. I don't know. At 420, we'll see. No, I think it's 430. I think I got yep, I think it's 430. It is 430. Yep. I'm looking at a source right now. I think this source is more trustworthy. It's 430. All right. So yeah, it is 430. Now you guys are saying 425. You guys are great. You guys are great. Trading Views is 430. All right, we'll go with 430. We'll go with 430. All right, cool. We didn't even need to have all that anxiety at 4 p.m. then. I was like getting nervous. Apple was going to come out. We have plenty of time to wait for Apple. We can just look at Deckers fall 13%. Does anyone own Atlassian or Intel or Visa, any of these names, or KLA outside of Apple? A lot of you guys said you owned Apple, Intel, Visa, Team. I mean, Team, I would imagine, is the most under-owned name in the SaaS sector for most people. Retail definitely doesn't care about this stock. Intel, I think people bought just for the hell of it. And then Visa, Visa is a staple of a lot of people's portfolio. It's a big holding in the S&P 500 as well. So I could imagine people own that one right now. Technically, Meta was 415, so Apple could be anytime they want. That's true. Meta was late, bro. Meta was late. I was like, how is Meta this late? And they didn't even address it. They didn't even talk about why they were late. Zuck just showed up like he owns the place. You know, Magnus Carlsen, for those that are chess nerds, Magnus Carlsen shows up to a chess round, a blitz round. That's 3 minutes. He'll show up with a minute left and he'll still beat his opponent, meaning he lost the initial 2 minutes, which in blitz, you can't really lose time because it's a blitz. And basically Zucks pulled a Carlsen yesterday and walked into earnings, saw his stock go up by like 10% and still got to play on his terms. So that's what Meta did yesterday. Let me see NVIDIA after hours as we're waiting for Apple. NVIDIA is slightly down about 1%, 123.50. MicroStrategy's up a little bit. Robinhood is at 52.91. Palantir is at 81.50. They're up after hours. Grab's up a little bit after hours as well. Google is doing well, 202. Nice little breakout above 200. And then Amazon right here, 243 or 234.73 after hours. Tempest AI, the Nancy stock, another monster day, up 12.6% for Tempest, which Nancy bought a couple weeks ago. Rob has some Visa. Beneficial has some Visa. Don said he used to work at Team. Randy has some Team. Dragos has some Intel. Seems like a decent amount of you guys have some Visa for sure. A few of you had Team back in 2020. Yeah, a few of you had Team back in 2020. Carol Chang, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate it. Thank you for being here and becoming a channel member. Thinking about buying Tempest, I feel like the time to buy Tempest was when Nancy officially disclosed it. At this point, I don't know, dude. You got to remember her call options are at $20 in the money. So she's not betting on this thing going massively higher. She bought it in the money. She had a lot of safety. She bought it when the stock was 35. This thing is up 67% year to date. This big bump you see right here from Friday, January 17th, that was when it was disclosed that Nancy bought. So I don't know, dude. I think I don't know enough about what this company does, but 66% year to date for a healthcare AI company that's not profitable. That's a lot of narrative that's driving it. But then again, maybe Nancy knows something that None of us know on this one. SMCI right here up 3% on the day. How did the semis do? The semis on the day were relatively green. Broadcom, great day, up 5%. Zucks did mention Broadcom yesterday on the call, and he said they're going to be using a lot more of their infrastructure. AMD was up 1.29%. NVIDIA, again, up about 1%. Intel, right now, up 2% after hours. TSM, nice rebound, up 3%. Marvell, up 3%. Dell was up 2%. And then Micron was up 4%. So the semis got a little bit of relief. A little bit of relief here today. Just sold 100 Tesla shares and split it into NVIDIA and Google. All right, so we got a little bit of rotation there. I did see a lot of people today. I tweeted that that I'm going down with the ship on NVIDIA, and a bunch of people responded that they sold their NVIDIA for Tesla. So, I mean, you do have a lot of the sentiment being gutted on NVIDIA, which I think is the time to buy, right? Like, it's just like anyone can buy NVIDIA at 140, which I did, by the way. My first buy was at 139. That was easy to buy. It's not easier to buy it at 120. So when people are leaving the stock and going to something else, that tends to be, hopefully, when sentiment is so bad that it's trying to cultivate into a bottom. And then it's just a question of if NVIDIA can execute on Q4 earnings. Again, if those that are just joining, OpenAI, the big headline for the day, OpenAI is raising $40 billion at a $340 billion valuation. I would imagine a decent amount of that money is going to go to NVIDIA. So that headline is really what ticked up NVIDIA on the day as well. SoftBank looking to invest about $25 billion out of the $40 billion into that new round for OpenAI. Okay, we have Apple in about 7 minutes. We are coming up soon. Yeah, VST, this one had a great day as well. Look at this thing, dude. 176 up 13%. This is the stock that what's her name? Nancy bought as well. So even after the 30% decline, VST, great recovery. I mean, not full recovery, but a decent recovery. Year to date, it's still up 17%. So there were some really decent opportunities because of this NVIDIA dip. The only thing that hasn't recovered is NVIDIA. And I would imagine that that's pretty stupid because you can't have VST and VRT and OpenAI and SMCI and all these companies catch a bid, but NVIDIA is not catching a bid. So it seems like sentiment's hit on NVIDIA, but that's okay because hopefully that should be creating a decent opportunity if the rest of the sector is benefiting from the inevitable growth that would come from NVIDIA. So I guess we just got to see what their earnings look like later this month. Jay says OpenAI has signed an agreement with the U.S. national laboratories to supercharge their scientific research. I saw this headline today. I haven't looked that deep into it. However, I think that's a big deal because more research for OpenAI, probably more grants. Here's the headline right here. I got it right now. And likely more computational infrastructure that they need to supercharge this research. We are proud to announce that OpenAI has signed an agreement with the U.S. national laboratories to supercharge their scientific research using our latest reasoning models. Sharing our technology with the nation's top scientists aligns with our mission of building AI to benefit humanity, and we believe the U.S. government is a critical partner to achieve this goal. The national labs host approximately 15,000 scientists working across a wide range of disciplines to advance our understanding of nature and the universe, and then they talk about all the different ways that their models are going to be implemented. You need a lot of compute to be able to handle all that power. And I would imagine, and a lot of energy. I would imagine that ecosystem still catches a bid. And if that's the case, NVIDIA likely will catch a bid. Matthias says guidance is going to blow NVIDIA back to highs if we're not there beforehand. Yeah, so this is the debate, right? Because a lot of people are saying guidance is going to be exceptional. And again, look, if you don't know much about the NVIDIA numbers, you want 450 of EPS. 450 of EPS. 450 of EPS, you put a 29 multiple on it, like below a 30 PE, you get a $130 stock. If you get $4 of EPS and you put a 25 multiple on it, you're still in this nice range of around or a 30 multiple on it, you get to 120. So even now at 124, if you assume they're going to do 4 to 450 of EPS, and the market's going to give them much more than a 30 multiple in terms of a PE, they're probably going to give them 35 to 40 because that's how NVIDIA tends to trade. This is the cheapest NVIDIA has been since August of last year. And because it's the cheapest it's been, and their guidance likely is not going to disappoint, at least that's what the bulls think, then if you assume even the worst case scenario where NVIDIA doesn't put up that much earnings per share growth this year, and you take a very basic price to earnings and you slap it on that, you get NVIDIA getting into this 125 range. At least you're not losing necessarily money. You're not going to get a price target like $80 or $90 like the bears are saying. Now, if the bears are correct on the guidance not matching up to the expectations the street has, NVIDIA is going below 100 very easily. But then it comes down to the qualitative due diligence on NVIDIA. Do you believe in it? And if you do believe in it, then this price is the cheapest you've gotten, really, for the past 70 months now. CARP interview is tomorrow, correct? CARP interview is tomorrow. Apple should be here very soon in about 4 minutes on Apple. Let's get a little bit of coverage on Intel while we're waiting for Apple, and then we will keep going from there.
Was particularly weak on the top, but was there anything here in this weaker guide?
Oh, wait, hold on. Before we do this, we have money market funds updates. Thank you, Andy, for reminding me about that. All right, here we go. Here we go. Let's check this out. So first of all, Apple pump or dump. I'm closing that poll. 60% of you said dump. 40% of you said pump. Those results are now locked in. Let's do money market funds. Increase or decrease? Increase or decrease? Here's the poll. What do you think? We'll put it in the chat. I'll give it 30 seconds. And then we'll get Apple. And then we'll get Apple. Yes, I'll be live for Palantir. I'll be live for Palantir on Monday. I will be live for Palantir on Monday. That coverage will start at 3:30 and it'll go till probably 6:30. So I'll be live on the channel that day. All right, I'm going to take a look at it before I see what the poll says. Okay, here's the answer. I got it. Not that surprising. Not a crazy number. But this is what we got. Wow, it's 50-50. 50% say decrease, 50% say increase. All right, there you go. It's 50. Literally, the poll is 50-50. Money market funds in the final week of January have decreased by 30 billion. I mean, this was expected. This was expected. If this number went up, it would be more surprising, but it makes sense. Trump's in office, markets at all-time highs. You had NVIDIA collapse 16%. This does track for the past 5 days. I would imagine that some people took some money out of their money market funds maybe and said, hey, I'm going to buy this stupid NVIDIA dip. And so we got a decrease of 30 billion, still 6.87 trillion on the sidelines. So still plenty of money that is waiting to get into the markets. All right, some more Intel coverage, and then we should have Apple in about 2 minutes.
Not to expect. Anything new on the downside?
No, there really isn't, John. And I think the expectations here were anything that wasn't a disaster would be a positive. I mean, they didn't miss on their guide, but they did hit on EPS and revenue. But if you look at the foundations of the different businesses, every one of the divisions except data center did pretty well. And I know that's a bit of an oxymoron because data center is so important, but all in all, it was pretty good news on the quarter. I'm particularly interested in what comes out in the call though, because that's where
Far and how it's different from the other names you talk about?
It's pretty fascinating. Had a great ramp into the end of last year. I felt like that was mostly a bit of a defensive trade, something that felt like a bit of window dressing. Massive correction into early this year. Felt like people just had the preference for stuff with a greater direct leverage on AI. And right now, it was fascinating to see the rally on the DeepSeek news simply because.
All right, Apple, here we go. We should get it in 1 minute. One minute for Apple. We have literally 8 seconds left. It's up 1/3%. We might see a little bit of a delayed reaction, but it is time to see if Apple can make a move. I'm seeing red. I'm seeing red. I'm seeing green. I'm seeing green. I'm seeing more green. 1.4% green. 1.4% green. It was red for like 10 seconds, hit 236. Now it's at 240. We're at 1.26%, 243. We're at 2.43%, 243.5 at 2.562%. We are green on Apple so far. Initial reaction is not bad yet. Looks like the street's okay, at least for now. It might be a little head fake. It's a bit quick to say. 3%, not horrible. Not horrible. Again, we're waiting. I will get you the results as soon as I can get them. But so far, traders are okay with these results. We got him. Here we go. It is a beat on the top line, beat on the bottom line. It's a beat on the top and a beat on the bottom. Apple, 240 of EPS versus 235. That's a beat. 124.3 billion versus 124.03 billion. That is a beat by $27 million. And now Apple's going red. Is it going red? Oh my goodness, it's going red. Holy crap. Wow. 3% just disappeared like that. Whoa. It's kind of green, up 0.5%. It's like teetering between red and green. 237 right now. Now it's red. Now it looks like it wants to go red. Now it looks like it wants to go red. That's not that's not price action that looks sustainable to the upside on green. It's down 0.33%, but it's kind of flat. No, now it's not flat. Now it's down. 1% down on Apple. 1%. Oh boy, the street's trying to figure out these numbers. Let's see if I can get the exact breakdown of iPads, iPhones, all that good stuff. It should be coming very soon. We should be getting that data. All right, here we go. I think we got it. Apple earnings. Let's take a look at what we have.
Bottom lines for Apple, but we are seeing a sales dip here for the iPhone business and in Greater China. I'll get to those in a minute, but let me read you the results here. EPS is a beat, $2.40 compared to the $2.35 the street wanted. Revenue, a slight beat here, $124.3 billion versus $124.12 billion expected. iPhone, though, here, a rare miss, $69.14 billion versus the $71.03 billion. That's down a little bit less than 1% year over year for the same period, about 0.8%. Services, though, a bright spot here again for another quarter. That was a beat at $26.34 billion versus the $26.09 billion expected. That's up nearly 14% year on year. And then Greater China, this is the story I think we're going to be talking about all afternoon, guys. Down 11%, that business, to 18.5.
Wow. China down 11%. Apple barely holding on to its green. Now it's red. It's up 0.17%. Then it goes down 0.02%. So it's I mean, like, you could call it flat. You could call it red. You could call it a little green. I guess the best thing to call it is flat because it's not really red or really green. But China, that's a disappointment on China. That is definitely a disappointment on China.
$1 billion. We see shares, let's call it flat-ish for now, guys. I'll send it back over to you.
All right, Steve Kovac, thank you. Yeah, shares of Apple are down fractionally right now. Tom, I want to get to you for your reaction to this, especially since we were just talking about China. And it does seem like, despite the holiday season, perhaps, and maybe largely because of China, you did see that sales dip in iPhone. The upgrade cycle is not manifesting yet here.
Yeah, so definitely I think what you're seeing is that as it pertains to this super cycle that some investors were hoping for from artificial intelligence is either incredibly slow developing or it's not happening at all. But what encourages me when you look at the outperformance is the strong services. And I do think that there is a way for the stock to continue to work on the strength of services despite not seeing a super cycle as it pertains to AI and iPhones.
Apple's flat, guys. This is not really anything that exciting, to be honest. I mean, like, it's down 0.5%. Okay, that's fine, but it could gap up 0.5% in a second. I think the street's just confused, bro. They love this stock so much. Apple is, you could argue, basically a proxy for the stock market. So the idea that they would send Apple tumbling, I don't think these earnings deserve that. I know the China miss is bad, but it's not like down 10% bad, but it's definitely not up 10% good. So it kind of makes sense to be flat. And Apple doesn't really give guidance. They give a little bit of indication of what their numbers look like for the next quarter, but they don't formally give any guidance. So we're going to have to see what Tim Cook says on the call that can get the street either excited or further upset about this quarter. I'm trying to find, oh, here we go. I got it. Here is the actual breakdown of all the numbers. Here is the breakdown of all the numbers from Apple. Vsov, your comment. Steve says, I don't love Tesla growth, but he also loves Apple, who's declining sales growth. I should ask him about that. He was really mad about Tesla this morning not growing. I should ask him about Apple not growing either. That would be a good question to ask him. But here we go. 240 versus 235 on EPS. Revenue 124.3 versus 124.1. iPhone revenue 69 billion versus 71. So they missed by 2 billion on that. And that's probably something the street's not happy about. Also, China, 18.5 versus 21.5. That's down 3 billion. Street's not happy about that. Services, 26.3 versus 26.1. See, this is why I don't like Steve's argument about services. He's like, services are growing. I'm like, yeah, well, the street wanted 26.1. They brought in 26.3. It's not like it's some dramatic beat against expectations. The street has already priced in the service revenue growth, and they're not beating it. or they're not beating it substantially. So I don't know if services is the thesis for Apple. Mac revenue was $9 billion versus $8 billion, so that's good. That beat by $1 billion. iPad was $8 billion versus $7.35. That beat by about $500 million. Wearables was 11.7 versus 11.9. That's down 20 million. And then products revenue was 97.9 versus 98. That's down about $1 billion. So these are the numbers that we have on Apple. All right. I mean, it's not a crappy quarter, but not a amazing quarter. One other headline today: Amazon is thinking of putting ads on X. So is Apple. That was another headline, that Apple is thinking of putting their advertisements back on X. They all left back in I think it was back in the summer of 2024. Elon probably said something political. They got upset about it. So it looks like they're coming back, which is good for X as a platform to sustain some level of growth, but also really good just for relations between Elon and some of those companies. And so it looks like Bezos and Apple are coming back to X. And it also might be an argument that, hey, a lot of people are on X, and if they want to get media distribution, they can't just go through mainstream media. They have to go through alternative platforms like Twitter. And so that might be one of the reasons why they're coming back as well. Now Apple is green after hours. Again, it's basically flat, not super red, not super green. So nothing too crazy there. Grab is up a little bit after hours, up about 0.65. NVIDIA is down 1% after hours. Palantir is up a little bit after hours. Hood is down 0.15%. Again, Apple's up 0.09%. Vistra's down just a little bit. Oklo's down 1%. It was up 18% on the day. Google is down slightly. Amazon's down slightly. And Meta is down slightly as well, following Apple, which is now up 0.5% on earnings. I don't think Cook is going to talk about the foldable iPhone or foldable iPad. If I was an analyst, I would ask him about that. He probably wouldn't answer, but maybe that is going to be in the future for Apple as well. Dev says, why is the reactions are opposite to the EPS report? Can someone explain this? So it's a good question. You might be thinking, okay, so if they beat on earnings, on EPS and revenue, which are the two sort of headline metrics, why does the stock go the opposite way? There's a lot of ways to answer this, but I think the number one reason is the market has a variety of different opinions that are fighting against each other all the time to try to figure out what is the right thing to do. Do you buy it or do you sell it? And one could argue that Apple has had a lot priced in, given they don't grow, but they're trading at a 32 PE or a 39 PE. And because of that, if they're not beating by a substantial margin, even if they are beating on EPS, that's not enough of a reason for the stock to go up. And we've seen this time and time again, right? Companies beat on earnings, but their stocks don't necessarily reflect that. Sometimes companies miss on earnings and their stocks still go up because they say something that's good, aka Tesla, which missed pretty badly yesterday on earnings, but it was up 3% on the day, closed at 400.28 because Elon painted a really nice picture around FSD and robotics. So Apple right here getting a little bit of a bid, up 0.5%, but not really enough to move this up too hard. Dan Ives thinks there's going to be a huge upgrade cycle. I have always disagreed with Dan Ives on this. I love Dan Ives. He's been on the channel. He's a friend of the channel, but I've never agreed on the broader Apple thesis because I'm not upgrading my phone. A lot of you guys aren't upgrading your phone, so it doesn't take a genius to think a lot of people aren't going to upgrade their phones. Now, one argument that Dan Ives does have is that in China, there's 240 million people that have not upgraded in the past couple of years. So he does have a point when he talks about the upgrade cycle, that there's a lot of people, a quarter of a billion people that could upgrade. But then it begs the question, is the iPhone 16 the reason to upgrade? And if it's not, those people might just not upgrade.
That iPhones would come in light, and the only thing that could save it would be services, which it did. What I'm looking to, though, is the future in China. I think it gets more difficult, not easier for them, because all the Chinese manufacturers are going to amp up their AI capabilities, and Apple really hasn't even shown up there in China, and not even a lot in the rest of the world. I think that the Mac bump is a positive sign, but I don't think it portends anything momentum about the future. And in fact, Apple has more competition with these new Copilot Plus PCs from 5 or 6 manufacturers and 3, soon to be 4 chipset manufacturers, where it could get a little bit more difficult. It's a lot easier to flip somebody on a Mac than it is on an iPhone to Android. But I think Apple's job is going to get even harder in the future.
And the stock is bouncing around between fractionally higher and fractionally lower. Let's get back to Steve Kovac for more on Apple's results. Steve?
Yeah, John, I caught up with Apple's
I think well, let's hear what Steve has to say, Steve Kovac, and then we'll call my Steve and get his reaction to these results.
CEO Tim Cook on these results. Hopefully we can get a little more clarity on what's going on here. First of all, I want to talk about what he told me on artificial intelligence, Apple Intelligence, and how that's informing iPhone demand. I know that's the question of the hour here. Let me tell you what he told me. This is a quote. Quote, we saw that in markets where we had rolled out Apple Intelligence that the year-over-year performance in the iPhone 16 family was stronger than those markets we had not rolled out Apple Intelligence. So there you go, saying that Apple Intelligence was a sales driver, at least in the markets where it was available. Obviously, only available in the United States at first, and in just a few languages, English at first, and then some others. More languages are coming. And then the China question, again, like I just told you, those sales are down 11% year on year. I was here a year ago when they had a 13% dip for that holiday quarter. Tim Cook had several reasons behind this. Part of what I just told you, artificial intelligence has not launched in that country yet. They still need the regulatory approval from the government there. And they need to find another AI partner based in China, whether that's Baidu, whether that's DeepSeek, or some other Alibaba, some other company, in order to take the place that ChatGPT is using elsewhere for the Apple Intelligence system. He also had a couple other things, blaming some inventory channels, and also talked a little bit about, this was a little confusing to me though, talking a little bit about subsidies from the government for devices that went into effect this year. I'm not quite sure how that affected sales last year. Maybe the idea here is that people waited to do for those subsidies to do their purchases in China, but that was his explanation for that. And then finally, I asked Mr. Cook about tariffs. That is a huge question in this new Trump administration looming over Apple and so many other companies. He pretty much dodged that. I asked him if Trump has given him any indication that Apple may be able to miss those tariffs again like they did in the first administration. He said they're preparing, they're evaluating what tariffs would look like, but otherwise declined to comment on that. Right now, you guys see the market still trying to figure this out. Shares are about flat or so on these results, guys.
Yep, still bouncing around a bit, Steve.
All right, that was CNBC's Steve. Let's go to our Steve. Steve, what are your thoughts on Apple?
So I got a bone to pick with you, buddy.
Okay, what's the bone?
What are the 4 words you continuously say to me?
4 words I keep saying to you?
Apple is not growing. That's what you keep saying, right?
Yes, Apple has not grown. Correct. I've said that. Yes.
All right. Well, I beg to differ, because they just set the bar for 2025 in their Q1 results. Product revenue is up 1.56%. Services revenue is up 13.94%, killing it. Total revenue is up 3.95%. Gross profit is up 6.23%, and overall gross profit margin has increased by just over 1%. And their revenue growth at 3.9% equals $4.73 billion.
Can you tell me other companies growing by 1.86%? I would love to invest my money in other companies growing 1.8%. I would love that.
You are growing by 3.95% in a quarter year over year, and you're adding $4.7 billion in revenue. Once again, they're not some company that does $2 billion in revenue.
Okay, hold on.
They buy back $2 billion in stock every week.
So you gave me 4 words. I'm going to give you another 2 words. Priced in. Before you say services was amazing, the street wanted 26.1. They brought in 26.3. If they can't, hold on.
Stupid numbers.
If they can't beat what the street is pricing in, I don't care if you think it's stupid. The street is the street. If they price it in and they can't beat that, that's not real growth, Steve. Like, you've got to be able to beat expectations.
When you see 13.94% year-over-year growth in services, that is real growth. And $26.34 billion in revenue and services in Q1. You go back to my articles, my forecast were that in 2025, they exceed $100 billion run rate. They're going to exceed it in 2025. My math was spot on.
Steve.
And how much money did they return to shareholders this quarter? Did you look?
I didn't. Tell me.
Because I looked.
All right. How much did they return? How much?
They did 23.3 billion in buybacks alone, and then another 6.8 billion in dividends and share settlements. Total of $30.1 billion capital return in 3 months, 10 billion a quarter.
Well, Tesla's
So
not.
before you start with the whole low growth, blah, 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 they're returning 10 billion a quarter.
Steve,
You show me another company
Steve,
doing that.
well, Tesla's not doing that. You know why? Because they're actually investing that money into growth.
Uh-huh.
They're not throwing it back.
Investing, I call it something else.
Oh, come on, don't do that. You can disagree with the Tesla thesis, but they are definitely trying to set themselves up for the next 20 years. Apple is working on a foldable iPad. Okay? Like, Steve, I get your point, but at the end of the day, every growth metric you give me, the stock's trading at a 40 PE. A lot of that's priced in. More than priced in.
The thing is, it's growing. You tell me they're not growing, they're growing.
1.86% is just not.
That's growth. That is growth.
You're right. It is growth. It's just not getting me that excited.
Is it exciting to people who are used to Palantir type growth? Probably not. Is it exciting when you see more buybacks and you see top line growth that's 4.3 billion in 3 months? That's a lot of growth.
Steve, that's not a ton of growth. I'm sorry. This is a stock.
You realize that's.
It's a big number when you throw out these billions. They're big numbers because Apple's a $3 trillion company, but it's not big percentage growth. Like there's a difference.
It's not big percentage. It's big numbers.
Dude, 1.5% is less than inflation.
Doesn't matter.
It's growing less than the state of inflation every day or every year. No, it does matter. I think it does matter.
No, it doesn't.
I think that definitely does matter, Steve.
It absolutely does not matter.
Paying a 40 PE for 1.87% growth. There's other reasons to buy Apple, but don't tell me it's for the growth.
I never said it's for the growth. I'm just telling you that they're growing.
No, you called up and said, I've got a bunch of words for you, and they have to do with growth. And then you started articulating all this growth. But that's not the reason to buy Apple.
Did I say that's the reason? I just said that you always tell me they're not growing, and I just gave you all the metrics on how they are growing.
Okay, so technically you're right. 1.8% is growth.
Technically, I'm right. Exactly.
You're right. On a technicality, you win this one, but
on a technicality, we get a double beat. Oh, and when you return that much money, and they're going to keep returning that much money, they're going to keep buying back shares. EPS is going to go up. They haven't even introduced their full AI platform yet. They have a 2 to 3 billion unit install base. You watch how much services balloons over the next couple of years.
Okay, let me just ask you a more logical question, like something that like anyone can understand right here.
Sure.
Why would people upgrade to a new phone?
So, several reasons. One, because their battery's starting to get fried. That's probably the most.
Oh, so Apple nuking our batteries is the reason people.
I'm just saying that's normally what I upgrade my phone.
You know, by the way, there was that controversy where we saw software updates where they purposely nuked our batteries, right?
I did not know that.
That happened 2 years ago. Apple had to pay some money on that. But
you know what? That would make sense of why, because like my phone would not hold a charge for like more than 3 hours. So I ended up just getting another phone.
Okay, why else?
So that's one.
Okay.
2, they want a bigger screen, something stupid like that, because they realize that trying to do emails on a small screen is ridiculous. Something like that. Other than that, I'm going to agree. At this point, not really many reasons to upgrade unless Apple comes out with a full assistant package that only the new chips can utilize.
So let me just get this off my chest. This is why I want to go back to first principles. When the Vision Pro came out, we had the same.
You love talking about Peter Thiel, don't you?
First of all, that's Ray Dalio, but no. When Vision Pro came out, we had the same debate. I said there's no use case. You said there's a use case. There ended up being no use case. It was a failure. You're giving me 2 very bad arguments about batteries and screens as a reason to upgrade. If we think from first principles, those arguments are bad. And if those arguments are bad, why would people upgrade? And if people don't upgrade, where is the growth coming from?
I didn't say they were good arguments.
Okay, so then why would
you
people...
asked me a question, I gave you an answer. I didn't say it was a good answer.
No, but if you're telling me buy Apple, or not, you're not saying buy Apple or anything, but you're just saying, look, there is growth. If majority of the growth is coming from, or should be coming from phones, and there's no reason to upgrade, then where's the growth
But
thesis?
that's the thing. I don't want the majority of the growth coming from phones. I'm very happy with what I'm seeing because I'm seeing a company that's diversifying away from phones.
Wait. They did 70 billion out of their 120 billion in revenue on phones. How are they diversifying away?
That services continues to be a bigger piece of the pie.
Services is 26 billion.
Right.
The iPhone is 70 billion.
Business they grew out of nowhere.
I'm not denying you got your nice 13% services growth, but they're doing 70 billion in iPhone sales.
The big thing for Apple is going to be them actually coming to the table and saying that we have an AI assistant or will have an AI assistant that will be better than whatever Alphabet is working on. And it's going to be embedded in all new phones and iPads that have whatever series chip and above. That is what Apple has to do. If they don't do that, I'm going to be pissed off because it could cause tech-heavy people to potentially consider moving away from the platform. Now, I say that with a grain of salt because anybody who has Apple products swears by them, and it's crazy for them to even think about moving. I don't know.
By the way, I'm one of those people. I would never leave Apple. I'm one of those people.
I don't know a lot of people that have ever even considered leaving Apple, but at the same time, if Alphabet comes out with an AI assistant for the phone and tablet, that's incredible, and Apple doesn't, I think there's going to be a problem. So Apple absolutely has to do that. And to me, that's going to be where the real big upgrade cycle comes from domestically. Internationally, I think that there is still going to be a good upgrade cycle in other parts of the world. But for here,
but Steve, that's also my issue. So Dan Ives says there's 250 million people in China that have to upgrade. Why? First of all, their economy is already going through a lot of issues. Where do they get the money to upgrade, and why would they upgrade if there's nothing compelling in the phone?
Yeah, but you're assuming that they have up-to-date phones.
Steve, what level iPhone are you on?
14, I think.
Okay, so
14?
are the Chinese people? So you're about 4 years old from your iPhone.
No, do you know where I can check that?
I don't know, but let's assume you're
Is there something in the settings where you can check it?
Probably, but I don't know how to find it. But let's assume you're even at an iPhone 13. Why would Chinese people be that much different than Americans and upgrade their phones?
I have a 14 Pro Max.
Okay, so if you were in China, why would you upgrade on a 14 Pro?
I don't know because I'm not in China, so I can't answer that.
No, but they're regular people in China, just like the United States, that have phones that probably are thinking, why should we upgrade? We don't need to upgrade.
All I'm saying is the financials work. They're growing. They're buying back shares, and they double beat. And you don't go against a company that's generating this much net income per quarter. You just don't do it.
I'm not saying you go against them. I'm just saying there's not a growth story.
And I'm not saying that it is the most compelling buy case out of the Mag 7 because it's not. I'm just saying that this is steady Eddie. This is your old faithful. It's going to continue printing a ton of money, continue buying back shares, and it's just going to gradually go up, which is fine.
Look, I don't disagree with that. What I've always disagreed with is that they're a growth company, and on a technicality, you're right, but they're not a real growth company.
I've never said they're a growth company. I just said they're growing.
Okay, now you got two technicalities. Now you're great.
No, I mean, just saying. I never said they're a growth company.
Okay, so we have 6 minutes until the call, and then we're going to listen to it. I just want to ask you a couple of questions on some headlines.
Yeah.
OpenAI rumored $350 billion valuation. What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't even know how to value that company, so I have no clue. I mean, the fact that Microsoft has a huge partnership and Oracle has a huge partnership with them, I mean, maybe they're worth every penny. I don't know.
One thing I will say, though, is that feels kind of bullish for NVIDIA, right?
Feels kind of bullish for NVIDIA.
I mean, if they're raising $40 billion, some of that money is going to go to some chips.
It may be a little bullish for some other companies that we were buying too.
I agree. NVIDIA down about 1.5% after hours. It did gap up to 124, so not a horrible day for NVIDIA either.
Oh, it finished at 124?
It did finish at 124, yep.
Oh, so I was slammed today, so I didn't even get a chance to do anything after we talked.
All right, last headline for you, and then I'll let you go. The parents of Sam Bankman-Fried are working with Trump, as per Bloomberg, to get him pardoned. Your take?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the story. I mean, I didn't really follow it much. I don't know. It's one of those things where if he really did this maliciously, I disagree 100%. But I don't know if he did it maliciously or not, or if he's just naive. I don't know the guy, so I have no idea about his character or anything. But if it was maliciously and he knew exactly what he was doing, he should rot in jail.
Walgreens is down 8%. That just happened. Walgreens suspends quarterly dividend. Wow.
Good. They should.
Wow. There you go.
I mean, you had to see that coming. I mean, they cut the dividend before, didn't they?
Yeah, look, this is a stock. I know a lot of people have been asking you about it. You've been pretty bearish about it for the past year now.
I mean, look, I own not a lot at all. I own it in my dividend series I write for Seeking Alpha, not much at all. But I mean, no, it's a difficult market for them to be in, and I'd rather them not pay a dividend because the bottom line is that they have too many problems right now. They did that big merger or acquisition a while ago. I mean, it's just nothing's really working. So it's difficult.
All right. For those that want to read Steve's articles on not just Apple, but a lot of companies, I'm putting his Seeking Alpha in the chat. He is, I think, like a top 10 follow on Seeking Alpha. 35,000 people read his stuff every week. So there it is.
I may
right
write
there.
something about Apple tonight just for you.
Oh, I hope you do. And I hope you title it Apple, the best growth stock out there. That's what I hope you title it.
No, because it's not a growth company. But you know what I was thinking about doing? Starting an LLC and calling it Orange.
Why?
Just for the hell of it. If they can build a company called Apple, why can't I build a company called Orange?
Oh, you can. It's a free country. Anyone can do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
I'm sure some other crazy person already did that, though.
Probably.
But yeah, Apple, this was a great quarter. I mean, it was a great quarter. Maybe not from a growth perspective, but it was a solid quarter with solid numbers. And nobody has generated more net income on a quarterly basis than them.
You are right. You are not wrong about that, Apple right here.
We will see if NVIDIA can take the crown, which I do think they will at some point this year. If it happens this quarter, maybe, maybe not. We'll see. I think it's going to happen Q3 where they surpass Apple. But I wouldn't go against Apple. That's the biggest thing. It may not be a screaming buy, but I wouldn't go against them. So the question becomes, isn't it better just to hold Apple and just don't do anything with it and just hold it?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. The last 2 minutes, and we got to get into the call. I think you should name your new LLC Banana, because I think your new LLC, I don't even know what sector it's in. I think it'll grow more than Apple. And I think because of that, Banana LLC will be more appealing than an Apple.
See, I like that. That was good.
Talk to you later, Steve. Thank you.
All right, you have fun with that stuff.
Talk to you later. There you go. Off the dome. Off the dome. This stuff, I don't know how this happens. It's just like, I don't know. I think the joke gods just come out of nowhere and they just bless me with these lines. I can't explain it, guys. There's some stuff about creativity you can't explain. You cannot explain how you are creative, but sometimes it's a gift. Sometimes it's just a gift. I can't explain it, but it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, Apple, we got this call that should be starting very, very soon. We have a minute left until they start. That was not bad, bro. Don't say that was bad in the chat. That was not bad. That was not like that. That was creative, bro. That was creative. That was not bad. You can say it maybe wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad. Someone said it's ridiculous. Someone said it's terrible. All right. Now the adjectives are going too far. The adjectives are going too far on that one. Apple has some upbeat music playing as we're waiting for their earnings. Tesla had some upbeat music playing yesterday as well. So maybe they've got some good stuff to announce. Apple is down a little bit, 1.5%. So now you're getting some more reaction to the downside. It was flat for the majority of the hour. Now it is down 1.5%. We will see what Tim Cook has to say. I think this is the first call with a new CFO. Luca retired. He was the previous CFO, I think 3 months ago. So we should be hearing from their new CFO here today as well. All right, here we go. Apple earnings call, fourth quarter 2024 starts now.
Our Apple CEO, Tim Cook, and he'll be followed by CFO, Kevin Parekh. After that, we'll open the call to questions from analysts. Please note that some of the information you'll hear during our discussion today will consist of forward-looking statements, including, without limitation, regarding revenue, gross margin, operating expenses, other income and expense, taxes, capital allocation, and future business outlook, including the potential impact of macroeconomic conditions on the company's business and results of operations. These statements involve risks and uncertainties that may cause actual results or trends to differ materially from our forecast. For more information, please refer to the risk factors discussed in Apple's most recently filed annual report on Form 10-K and the Form 8-K filed with the SEC today, along with the associated press release. Apple assumes no obligation to update any forward-looking statements, which speak only as of the date they are made. I'd now like to turn the call over to Tim for introductory remarks.
Thank you, Suhasini. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining the call. Before I talk about our results, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the devastating wildfires that impacted the Los Angeles area this month. From our retail teams to Apple TV Plus, Apple Music, Fitness Plus, Beats, and more, LA is home to many of our team members. Our thoughts are with everyone who is beginning the road to recovery. For our part, we are contributing to the relief efforts, and we will continue to support our teams and the local community. Now, turning to the quarter. Today, Apple is reporting revenue of $124.3 billion for the December quarter, up 4% from a year ago and an all-time record. EPS also set an all-time record of $2.40, 10% higher year over year. We achieved all-time revenue records across the majority of the countries and regions we track, including the Americas, Europe, Japan, and the rest of Asia Pacific. We also continue to see momentum in emerging markets, setting all-time revenue records in a number of markets, including Latin America, the Middle East, and South Asia, among others. In services, we achieved an all-time revenue record, and in the past year, we've seen nearly $100 billion in revenue from our services business. I'm also pleased to announce that we reached a new record for our installed base with over 2.35 billion active devices. In October, we released the first set of Apple Intelligence features in US English for iPhone, iPad, and Mac, and we rolled out more features and expanded to more countries in December. Now, users can discover the benefits of these new features in the things they do every day. They can use writing tools to help find just the right words, create fun and unique images with Image Playground and Genmoji, handle daily tasks and seek out information with a more natural and conversational Siri, create movies of their memories with a simple prompt, and touch up their photos with Cleanup. We introduced visual intelligence with camera control to help users instantly learn about their surroundings. Users can also seamlessly access ChatGPT across iOS, iPadOS, and macOS. And we were excited to recently begin our international expansion with Apple Intelligence now available in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, and the UK. We're working hard to take Apple Intelligence even further. In April, we're bringing Apple Intelligence to more languages, including French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, Japanese, Korean, and simplified Chinese, as well as localized English to Singapore and India. And we'll continue to roll out more features in the future, including an even more capable Siri. Apple Intelligence builds on years of innovations we've made across hardware and software to transform how users experience our products. Apple Intelligence also empowers users by delivering personal context that's relevant to them. And importantly, Apple Intelligence is a breakthrough for privacy and AI with innovations like private cloud compute, which extends the industry-leading security and privacy of Apple devices into the cloud. Apple Intelligence opens up an exciting new frontier and is already elevating experiences across iPhone, iPad, and Mac. We're going to keep investing in innovation and in transformative tools that help users in their everyday lives. Let me now turn to our results for the quarter, starting with iPhone. iPhone revenue came in at $69.1 billion, reaching all-time iPhone revenue records in dozens of markets and regions. Our iPhone 16 lineup takes the smartphone experience to the next level in so many ways, and Apple Intelligence is one of many reasons why customers are excited. With the A18-powered iPhone 16 and iPhone 16 Plus, users are getting a big boost in battery life and incredible camera experiences with camera control. Our amazingly powerful iPhone 16 Pro models go even further, with larger-than-ever displays and a Pro camera system so advanced it can turn moments into masterpieces. In Mac, revenue was $9 billion for the December quarter, 16% higher year over year, driven by significant excitement around the world for our latest Mac lineup. The Mac is more than just a powerful tool. It's a launchpad to enable users to bring their best ideas and boldest creations to life. And there are so many reasons to choose Mac, from the breathtaking performance of the M4 family of chips to the groundbreaking and growing capabilities of Apple Intelligence. Every product in the Mac lineup offers something extraordinary, whether that's the super portable MacBook Air, the powerhouse MacBook Pro, the world's best all-in-one iMac, or the small wonder that is the Mac Mini, which is not only stunningly capable, but is our first carbon-neutral Mac. All of this is enabled by the unparalleled power of Apple Silicon. iPad revenue was $8.1 billion, up 15% from a year ago, driven by strong interest for our latest products. We love hearing from customers who are discovering for the first time the versatility of iPad, from the ultra-portable iPad mini, built from the ground up for Apple Intelligence, to the powerful M4 iPad Pro in a stunningly thin and light design. iPad is there for our users whenever they need it and wherever they go, and we are pleased to see so much excitement and enthusiasm for our lineup. Wearables, home, and accessories revenue came in at $11.7 billion. With its most advanced display yet and a thinner, more comfortable design, the all-new Apple Watch Series 10 is the perfect companion to help users pursue their health and fitness goals this year. From the powerful Vitals app to more customizable activity rings, users have an ever-increasing set of innovative health tools at their fingertips and watchOS 11. Health innovation has long been a focus for us, and we're committed to continuing to advance this work because we know how much it matters to our users. We've introduced new hearing health features on AirPods Pro 2, and new sleep apnea notifications on Apple Watch are also helping users learn of a potentially serious condition that's thought to affect up to 1 billion people worldwide. During the quarter, we also brought Apple Vision Pro to even more countries, enabling more customers to discover the magic of spatial computing. Users are enjoying incredible, immersive entertainment experiences and powerful new features and enhancements to Mac Virtual Display. Vision Pro is also supercharging the creative process, and the incredibly talented director, John M. Chu, recently shared how its extraordinary capabilities helped him bring the movie Wicked to life. Turning to services, we set an all-time revenue record of $26.3 billion for the December quarter, growing 14% from a year ago. We set all-time records in the Americas, Europe, and rest of Asia Pacific, and a December quarter record in Japan. 5 years since launch, Apple TV Plus continues to be home to incredible storytelling that viewers love. There's nothing quite like the anticipation that comes when a fan favorite returns, and we were thrilled to debut the second season of Severance earlier this month. We have so much in store for our subscribers this year with new shows like The Studio and Your Friends and Neighbors. And we can't wait for the premiere of Formula One, starring Brad Pitt on June 27th, which will take viewers inside the sport in a truly unprecedented way. We're excited that Apple TV Plus continues to draw attention and accolades. To date, Apple TV Plus productions have earned more than 2,500 nominations and 538 wins. During the quarter, we were also excited to launch a new Find My service that can help our users when they lose their luggage. For the first time, if you put an AirTag in your suitcase, you'll be able to share its location information with many major airlines so they can quickly track down your bags if they get lost. Turning to retail, our teams went above and beyond to help customers find the perfect gift throughout the holiday season. We also celebrated openings of new stores in China, Spain, and the US. And we were excited to announce plans to connect with even more customers this year by adding a 5th store in the UAE and bringing our online store to Saudi Arabia this summer. We can't wait to welcome customers to the first of several flagship store locations in Saudi Arabia that we're opening beginning in 2026. I just had the chance to visit both countries last month, and I had a great time meeting with customers and team members. There's an incredible energy and passion for technology in these growing markets. Every day, I get deeply moving notes about the many ways our technology is enriching our users' lives. I recently got a note from a customer who put his watch on his father's wrist when he feared something was wrong with him. The watch alerted them that the father was in AFib, and they were able to get him to the hospital for potentially life-saving treatment. Another user put his new watch on for the first time, and within 15 minutes was notified of a low heart rate that led to a necessary pacemaker. And there are so many touching notes around the profound impact of our new hearing health feature, like a recent user who told me it had changed her life, allowing her to take part in conversations with her children and grandchildren. These are the kind of stories that remind us of how profoundly important our work is, and it drives us to innovate each and every day. At Apple, the future is full of promise and potential. We're always searching across a world of possibilities, finding those places where we can do the most good and putting all of our energy and ingenuity into making something special. With that, I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Thanks, Tim, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to cover the results for the first quarter of our fiscal year. We are very pleased to report an all-time high for revenue, with December quarter revenue of $124.3 billion, up 4% year over year. We achieved all-time revenue records in the Americas, Europe, Japan, and rest of Asia Pacific, and grew in the vast majority of markets we track. Products revenue was $98 billion, up 2% year over year, driven by growth from iPad and Mac. Thanks to our incredible customer satisfaction and strong loyalty, our install base of active devices reached an all-time high across all products and geographic segments, and is now over 2.35 billion active devices. Services revenue reached an all-time record of $26.3 billion, up 14% year over year. We grew in every geographic segment and achieved all-time records in both developed and emerging markets. Company gross margin was 46.9% at the high end of our guidance range and up 70 basis points sequentially, primarily driven by favorable mix. Products gross margin was 39.3%, up 300 basis points sequentially, primarily driven by favorable mix and leverage. Services gross margin was 75%, up 100 basis points sequentially, primarily driven by mix. Operating expenses of $15.4 billion landed at the midpoint of our guidance range and up 7% year over year. This strong business performance resulted in all-time records for both net income at $36.3 billion and diluted earnings per share of $2.40, up 10% year over year. Operating cash flow was also strong at $29.9 billion, which included the impact of the $11.9 billion we paid during the quarter in connection with the state aid decision. Now, I'm going to provide some more details for each of our revenue categories. iPhone revenue was $69.1 billion, roughly flat to the prior year. We grew in the majority of markets we track and reached all-time revenue records in several developed markets, including Canada, Western Europe, and Japan, and in emerging markets like Latin America, the Middle East, and South Asia. The iPhone active install base grew to an all-time high in total and in every geographic segment. We also set an all-time record for upgraders. According to a recent survey from Kantar, during the December quarter, iPhone was a top-selling model in the US, urban China, India, the UK, France, Australia, and Japan. We continue to see high levels of customer satisfaction in the US at 96%, as measured by 451 Research. Mac generated $9 billion in revenue, up 16% year over year. We saw strength across our lineup, from the new Mac Mini to the latest MacBook Air and MacBook Pro models. This incredible performance was broad-based, with double-digit growth in every geographic segment. With our latest advances in Apple Silicon and our fastest neural engine ever, customers are able to take advantage of the full capabilities of AI and Mac. The Mac install base reached an all-time high, and we saw double-digit growth for both upgraders and customers new to the Mac. Additionally, customer satisfaction in the US was recently measured at 94%. iPad revenue was $8.1 billion, up 15% year over year, driven by the new iPad mini and latest iPad Air. The iPad install base reached another all-time high, and over half of the customers who purchased an iPad during the quarter were new to the product. Customer satisfaction was at 96% in the US, based on the latest reports from 451 Research. Wearables, home, and accessories revenue was $11.7 billion, down 2%.
Guys, I know this part is boring. We just kind of got to get through it to get to Q&A, which is what's going to matter. So I think there's maybe another 10 minutes left on this max, and then they'll go to Q&A. Tim Cook actually went through a lot of the results already financially, so I don't know exactly why they're rereading this stuff. But NVIDIA's down 1.2%, Tesla's down a little bit, Hood's down a little bit, Palantir's down 0.23%. Palantir did get upgraded from 21 to 79 by Morningstar. So let me just read you this report real quick. It's like 3 paragraphs, and then we'll get back to Apple, and then we should get to Q&A soon. So they say, we are transferring coverage of Palantir, maintaining a narrow moat rating and a roughly quadrupling our fair value from 21 to 79. We view the company as fairly valued despite the premium it trades at relative to other software companies. Again, another company upgrading and justifying the valuation. We believe we are in the early phases of an artificial intelligence revolution where downstream software companies like Palantir disproportionately stand to benefit. And again, if OpenAI is going to raise at $340 billion, it begs the question, what is Palantir worth? Our base case assumes that Palantir can achieve a growth profile like Salesforce in the 2010s. Salesforce was able to streamline bloated sales teams and drive productivity by creating a software that organizes sales data and workflow processes. We believe Palantir will similarly disrupt the current assembly line approach to data analytics, where data is gathered, analyzed, presented, and then dropped. Palantir instead creates a real right loop where the software learns and improves as data is engaged with, which results in what should we do solutions that boost productivity and can replace significant chunks of internal information technology efforts. We have been witnessing ongoing commodification of LLMs in the AI value chain and believe that the economic value is shifting downstream to software companies that can orchestrate smarter LLMs that drive productivity gains. Traditional LLMs are more akin to statistical word generators, but when Palantir orchestrates them with every bit of disparate data available to a customer, they become significantly more useful thanks to much needed context about the individual customer and their pain points. We believe that the drivers for this company's valuation are expectations for the total addressable market that Palantir's software can address and the firm's ability to drive penetration of this market. And they believe there's a $1.3 trillion TAM going into 2033. So obviously, they're late as the stock has run up, but we are starting to see more of the street get a bit more bullish on Palantir. We'll have earnings for them on Monday.
Resulting in $97 billion in total debt. Therefore, net cash at the end of the quarter was $45 billion. During the quarter, we returned over $30 billion to shareholders This included $3.9 billion in dividends and equivalents and $23.3 billion through open market repurchases of 100 million Apple shares. As usual, we will provide an update to our capital return program when we report results for the March quarter. As we move ahead into the March quarter, I'd like to review our outlook, which includes the types of forward-looking information that Suhasini referred to at the beginning of the call. The color we're providing today assumes that the macroeconomic outlook doesn't worsen from what we were projecting today for the current quarter. As the dollar has strengthened significantly, we expect foreign exchange to be a headwind and to have a negative impact on revenue of about 2.5 percentage points on a year-over-year basis. Despite that headwind, we expect our March quarter total company revenue to grow low to mid-single digits year over year. We expect services revenue to grow low double digits year over year. When you remove the negative impact of the foreign exchange headwinds I described earlier, the year-over-year growth rate would be comparable to that of the December quarter. We expect gross margin to be between 46.5% and 47.5%. We expect operating expenses to be between $15.1 billion and $15.3 billion. We expect OI&E to be around negative $300 million, excluding any potential impact from the mark-to-market of minority investments, and our tax rate to be around 16%. Finally, today our board of directors has declared a cash dividend of 25 cents per share of common stock payable on February 13th, 2025, to shareholders of record as of February 10th, 2025.
All right, Q&A should be starting in probably a minute.
Thank you, Kevin. We ask that you limit yourself to 2 questions. Operator, may we have the first question, please?
Certainly. We will go ahead and take our first question from Eric Woodring with Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Great, guys. Thanks so much for taking my questions. Tim, in your prepared remarks, you had noted that iPhone 16 models are selling better in markets where Apple Intelligence is available. And I'm just wondering if you could double click on that comment a bit and share any other details you believe could, better help us understand how Apple Intelligence is really impacting iPhone demand, and or what features you find that users are using most often already. And then I just have a quick follow-up. Thank you.
Yeah, Eric. Hi, it's Tim. We did see that the markets where we had rolled out Apple Intelligence, that the year-over-year performance on the iPhone 16 family was stronger than those where Apple Intelligence was not available. In terms of the features that people are using, they're using all of the ones that I'd referenced in my opening comments, from writing tools to image playground and Genmoji, to visual intelligence and more. And so we see all of those being used. The cleanup is another one that is popular, and people love seeing that one demoed in the stores as well. We only had 2.5 weeks or so during the December quarter of the second release of 18.2, and then only had the UK and the other English language countries for the 2.5 weeks. And so we've got just the early indications at the moment. But we were glad.
Okay, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay. No, thank you for that color, Tim. It's helpful. And then, if we just touch on China, obviously in the news fairly frequently. If we set aside China macro, which I understand is still challenging, can you maybe talk about the headwinds that Apple faces, whether that's shifting preferences for Western technology brands in favor of domestic vendors, or is this just a function of not necessarily having Apple Intelligence available with the iPhone 16, which is not necessarily helping replacement cycles? Just maybe double clicking on what you think and what you're hearing in China as it relates to the iPhone. Thanks so much.
Yeah, sure. If you look at our Greater China revenue for the quarter, we were down 11% year over year. And over half of the decline that we experienced was driven by change in channel inventory from the beginning to the end of the quarter. And of course, on the Apple Intelligence side, we have not rolled out in China. And as we just talked about, we did see better results in the markets that we had rolled out in than markets we hadn't rolled out in. And of course, it's the most competitive market in the world. And so all of those things are true. In terms of the macro situation, there was a fiscal stimulus or subsidy announced in very recently in January that did not affect the December quarter. There were some provincial subsidies in the December quarter, but the national program was announced, I believe, on January 20th. And it does cover the categories that we have products in, from smartphones to tablets and PCs and smartwatches, up to a maximum price point. And so we do see fiscal stimulus occurring, and we'll be glad to talk about what that looks like on the next call.
Great. Thanks so much, Tim. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Operator, can we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from Ben Reitzes with Melius. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for the question. And hey Tim, wanted to ask you, you knew this one was coming, but there's a perception that you're a big beneficiary of lower cost of compute, and I was wondering if you could give your worldly perspective here on the DeepSeek situation, and if you are going to, if anything's happened to change your views in terms of a tailwind to margins and your ability to execute, even due to the potential for cost to come down due to that development, and probably what was going to happen anyway. But I'd love your perspective on that, and then I have a quick follow-up. Thanks.
Sure. In general, I think innovation that drives efficiency is a good thing, and you know that's what you see in that model. Our tight integration of silicon and software, I think, will continue to serve us very well. As you know, we do things on the device and we do things in the private cloud, and which mimics from a architectural point of view what happens on device. And from a CapEx point of view, we've always taken a very prudent and deliberate approach to our expenditure, and we continue to leverage a hybrid model, which I think continues to serve us well.
Oh, great. All right. Thanks, Tim. And then, you know, just with regard to, you know, the iPhone trajectory, do you feel like, I guess, you know, you obviously don't talk about new products and stuff like that, but do you feel that there's a lot of room for form factor innovation in the future, or do you feel that the you know, that the current lineup kind of you know, shows where you're going? I guess without pulling punches, wondering if you thought, you know, in terms of the phone innovation, if there's a lot more to come, and you could see the kind of current market changing a bit over the next 2 to 3 years. Thanks.
I think, Ben, there's a lot more to come, and I could not feel more optimistic about our product pipeline. So I think there's a lot of innovation left on the smartphone.
Thanks a lot, Tim.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Operator, could we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from Michael Ng with Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the question. I have two as well. First, it was encouraging to hear about the record for iPhone upgraders, which I think is something you haven't said for about a year now. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you would attribute this upgrade strength to. Has Apple Intelligence played a role in helping upgrades in the markets that you've launched in? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for the question. If you look at iPhone, we did set an all-time record for upgraders. So we've never seen a higher level of upgraders before. The install base hit a new all-time high as well. And if you look at the 16 compared to the 15 from launch, which occurred, as you know, in September, so this is across now 2 quarters from September to the end of the December fiscal quarter, the 16 outperformed the 15. And so I think you can conclude from that that there are compelling reasons to upgrade. And in the markets where we had launched Apple Intelligence, they outperformed the markets that we did not. So
Great. Thank you, Tim.
Lots of good color there.
Great. Thank you, Tim. That's very clear. And then I had one about the iPad Pro M4, the thinner version. I was just wondering if you could talk about that thin form factor for the iPad Pro. How did it help iPad sales overall, and what did your kind of market and consumer research tell you about how consumers valued that thin product form factor? Thank you.
It's a good question. iPad overall grew 15% for the quarter, and it was more driven by iPad Air and the entry-level iPad than it was the top-level iPad. But overall, we could not be more pleased with the iPad category growing 15%. It's a great achievement for the quarter. And probably what is most important is that over half of the sales in the December quarter went to customers who were new to the iPad. So that tells us that there's a good amount of customers there to attract.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Operator, could we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from Amit Daryanani from Evercore. Please go ahead.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. I have two as well. Maybe to start with, you folks are seeing some very robust growth trends in emerging markets right now for Apple products. Can you just, at a high level, just talk about the durability of growth that you see in emerging markets? And then do you think the summation of these emerging markets are starting to get big enough or perhaps starting to grow fast enough that they can actually offset some of the China headwinds you're going through?
We have great results in a number of emerging markets. And as you know from past calls, I'm particularly keen on India. India set a December quarter record during the quarter. And we're opening more stores there. We've announced that we're going to open 4 new stores there. We also, the iPhone was the top selling model in India for the quarter. And it's the second largest smartphone market in the world and the third largest for PCs and tablets. And so there's a huge market. And we have very modest share in these markets. And so I think there's lots of upside there. And that's just one of the emerging markets.
Yeah, Tim, maybe I'll add, Amit, then emerging markets we're also seeing double-digit growth on the install base, both in total and for the iPhone as well. So that's also an encouraging sign.
Perfect. Thank you. And then, I guess just a question on gross margins for the March quarter. You folks are guiding gross margins flattish on a sequential basis. Typically, I think it tends to be guided up a little bit, 50 basis points, so sequentially. Can we just touch on what are the offsets, the puts and takes you're seeing on gross margins? And Kevin, maybe you can just talk about, is FX having an outsized impact in your margin profile as well in March?
Yeah, so let me take that one. As we mentioned in my remarks, we're guiding to 46.5% to 47.5%. So we think we're very pleased with that level of guidance. As you mentioned, there's always puts and takes. We do think there's going to be some FX headwinds, which we talked about, that's going to affect our revenue growth as well. To have an impact here on the margin, a sequential impact on margins. But we think that's going to be offset by favorable costs and the relative mix of services. We also, as you know, when we move from Q1 to Q2, especially on the product side, because Q1 is such a large quarter for our products business, we do have a loss of leverage. So there are some puts and takes, and I think we feel good about the the range. We think it's a very, very strong guide for gross margin.
Thanks, Amit. Operator, could we get the next question, please?
Our next question is from Wamsi Mohan with Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. Tim, I want to follow up on your comment about channel inventory in China. I was wondering if you could maybe address more broadly if channel inventory across your different product lines and regions, do you feel they're elevated or out of range in any other regions? And given the clearing event that kind of happened in China, I guess, in the quarter, should we think of a more normal progression quarter on quarter into the March quarter in China in particular? And I have a follow-up.
Yeah, I don't want to project sales for the current quarter by region, but if you look at the channel inventory and look at iPhone in the aggregate, so on a worldwide basis, we're very comfortable with our channel inventory position. In China, my point was that our channel inventory reduced from the beginning of the quarter to the end of the quarter, and that was over half of the reduction in the reported results. And so if you look, part of the reason for that is that our sales were a bit higher than we forecasted them to be toward the end of the quarter. And so we ended a little leaner than we had expected to.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And then maybe as my follow-up, your services growth has been very strong, and I know you've kind of been navigating some pretty challenging regulatory burdens on the business globally. So how should investors think about maybe either a top line or margin headwind that, let's say, you're currently absorbing in your results that could potentially maybe reverse in a more balanced regulatory environment? Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I think one, I just wanted to kind of reiterate the fact that our services business at an all-time record for December quarter, up 14%, and that was one strength that we saw across all geographic segments, and also was very broad based across all of our services. So we have, as you know, a very broad services portfolio, and so we do see good momentum across the board. And as well, we continue to see increasing engagement across the customer base, across all of the service offerings, both transacting and paid accounts. We talked about reaching all-time highs, and we have over now 1 billion paid subscriptions across the services platform.
All right. Thanks, Wamsi. Operator, could we get the next question, please?
Our next question is from Samik Chatterjee with JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my questions. I guess for the first one, I mean, you had a great quarter on Macs and iPads both, and I'm just curious in terms of if you can help us think about the sustainability of this double-digit growth that you saw in both the product lines. And more interested also here, we are talking about Apple Intelligence sort of influencing volumes on iPhones, but any thoughts on sort of what does that influence look like in terms of volumes for Macs, for example, where I think there's a lot of conversation around AI PCs, how you're thinking about the impact there? And I have a quick follow-up. Thank you.
Yeah, if you look at Mac, Mac was up 16%, and on iPad we were up 15%. The Mac was driven by a very strong uptake on our new products during the quarter, and the continued success of the MacBook Air. And so, as you know, we launched an M4-based MacBook Pro, an iMac, and a Mac Mini during the quarter. We believe we've got the best AI PC out there for running workloads. The silicon in the Mac is and it has been for several years now, designed by us and really designed for these workloads. And so, but I don't want to project at the category level for the future, but we're we're incredibly pleased with both the Mac and the iPad for the quarter.
And Tim, I'm going to use your earlier discussion about India as a strong emerging market to sort of ask you about the supply chain planning there in terms of how much of the supply chain planning there that you're doing is more of a reflection of the growth expectations from that market relative to in terms of more diversification of the supply chain, and how should we sort of think about that strategy relative to that particular country?
Yeah, if you look at the manufacturing we do there, we do manufacturing both for the domestic market and we export. And so in our business needs a certain economies of scale for it to make sense to manufacture in country. And so that really means that we're going to be both a use for the domestic market and an export market.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Samik. Operator, could we get the next question, please?
Our next question is from David Vogt with UBS. Please go ahead.
Great. Thanks, guys, for taking my question. So maybe, Tim, this is for you. I'm trying to think about your commentary around Apple Intelligence being sort of a momentum driver for the iPhone business. But when I think about your kind of framework for the March quarter, if I kind of adjust for channel inventory over the last couple of years, kind of feels like your iPhone revenue for the March quarter is going to be relatively similar to the quarter 2 years ago and even the quarter last year. So how do we square kind of the momentum versus kind of the iPhone business effectively really kind of unchanged over the last couple of years? And then second, when I think about kind of the gross margin profile of the business, obviously you've done a great job in taking gross margins up. Where do you think we sit in terms of, on the services side at least, where margins could go? It looks like, the 75% margin's been an incredibly successful quarter, but just trying to get a sense for where do you think this number could go over the intermediate term? Thank you.
Yeah, if you look at Apple Intelligence, what my point earlier was that markets where we had rolled out Apple Intelligence during the Q1 period performed better on a year-over-year basis than markets where we had not, and so that gives us it's a positive indicator that we were pleased with. There are many compelling reasons to upgrade. And the other thing I would say that I think I mentioned earlier is that if you look at it from a launch to the end of the December quarter, and so that goes back to September, the 16 family is outperforming the 15 family. And so I think those are two good data points. Our next round of language rollouts will be in April. And so it will be in our Q3 quarter. And I'll let Kevin take the gross margin question.
Yep, great. Hi, David. How are you? So on the services gross margin, I think maybe stepping back a second. Services business in general in aggregate is accretive to the overall company margin. And one of the things that's an important reminder is we've got a very broad services portfolio, and those businesses have very different margin profiles. And so I think one, it's because of the nature of those businesses, and in part also because of the way we account for them. And so one of the big factors that drives the services gross margins is the relative performance of those different businesses within the portfolio. We also have the dynamic of some scale businesses like payment services, iCloud, that are actually growing. And there, when we add incremental users, those end up being, accretive to margins as well. And so in general, what we saw in the December quarter was nice momentum across our entire services business that allows us to deliver, that 75% margin at the services level. And I think our guidance takes into consideration, what we think we're going to land from a company standpoint at 46.5 to 47.5, which again, we think is a strong guide.
Great. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you, David. Operator, could we have the next question, please?
Our next question is from Krish Sankar with TD Cowen. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. I also had two of them. One, the first one for Tim. You had very strong Mac growth, 16% year over year last quarter. Just wondering how much of that was driven by some of the Mac silicon innovation versus a replacement cycle for Macs?
I don't know the answer to your question precisely, but I think it is a combination of these products are so compelling. The M4 based products are so compelling that it's driving both upgrades at the double-digit level, and it's driving switchers at a double-digit level. And so we're seeing both come out, and I think it's just because of the compelling products.
Got it. Thanks to the Tim. And then a follow-up for Kevin on the gross margin. I want to ask you on more on the product side. Last quarter you had 39.3%, which is very strong, similar to a year ago period. I'm kind of curious, how much more levels do you have on the product side to improve the gross margin? Or do you think with some of the more new AI-related devices, there's more upside to gross margin from here on the product hardware side?
Yeah, thanks, Krish, for the question. So on the product side, as you mentioned, we had pretty strong sequential improvement, 300 basis points. For the December quarter, that was really driven by, we talked about favorable mix and leverage. As you know, in Q1, again, it's a launch quarter for many products, and so we tend to benefit from the leverage that we get from that higher volume. I would say in general, our gross margin for products is driven by a number of factors. One of them is the various product launches that we have. Different products do have different margin profiles, and so that mix does make a difference. And in particular, what we're seeing is, for example, many of our mixes across, like phone, for example, we're seeing customers gravitate towards our Pro products, because of things like affordability that allows our customers to get into our best products, which have favorable gross margins. So we're continuing to see that trend, that impacted us in the December quarter as well. I think we're in a favorable commodity environment from a cost standpoint, and so we're benefiting from that as well in the December quarter. And then, that's going to be, as we talked about, we're going to have a foreign exchange headwind heading into the March quarter, but we figured, that's contemplated in the guidance range that we gave of the 46.5 to 47.5%.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Krish. Operator, could we get the next question, please?
Our next question is from Richard Kramer with Arete Research. Please go ahead.
Thanks very much. My first question is for Tim. I'd like to ask about what might accelerate the pace of Apple Intelligence adoption. I guess, do you see this simply as a question of time, i.e. to launch more markets and languages or increase the percentage of installed base devices that can support it? Or is it a question of money, i.e. shifting R&D or marketing spend towards AI? And based on other prior Apple services, do you expect a sort of tipping point where adoption will go mainstream? Thanks.
I do believe it will go mainstream. I'm getting feedback from people using different features today. And this is, keep in mind that on the iPhone side of our business, you either have to have an iPhone 15 Pro or iPhone 16 to use Apple Intelligence. And so as that base grows, I think the usage will continue to grow. And I think I know from my own personal experience, once you start using the features, you can't imagine not using them anymore. I know I get hundreds of emails a day, and the summarization function is so important.
No, it's not. Summarization sucks. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Roll out a whole series of new languages that we had mentioned, and so the base grows further.
Okay, thank you. And then Kevin, one of Luca's legacies was really getting Apple to record margin levels and also maintaining very consistent pricing across the product range. But taking the current high levels of profitability as fairly stable, what observations might you share about price sensitivity of users and whether having a wider range of pricing across the products might unlock potentially further market share gains or boost overall product growth?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, one, I don't think we're going to really depart from what served us pretty well to now. I mean, we always take into consideration, looking at short-term trade, comparisons between short-term and the long-term. I think we've had a pretty disciplined pricing strategy, which would serve us pretty well. And I think we're going to, continually kind of stick with that as far as I can tell.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Richard. Operator, could we get the next question, please?
Our next question is from Atif Malik with Citi. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. How do you guys see the potential tariff impact to your products or consumer demand under Trump 2.0? You guys did fine under Trump 1.0.
We are monitoring the situation and don't have anything more to add than that.
Great. And Tim, as a follow-up, there is a lot of discussion on agentic AI, the use of agents. Do you guys see the upgraded Siri expected in April as something that will, let's say, be the killer application among the suite of features that you have announced on Apple Intelligence?
I think the killer feature is different for different people. But I think for most, they're going to find that they're going to use many of the features every day. And certainly one of those is Siri, and that will be coming over the next several months.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Atif. Operator, could we please get the last question?
Our last question is from Ben Bollin from Cleveland Research Company. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking the question. Tim, I'm interested in your thoughts in how you would have us think about the average useful life of these devices in the wild. And in particular, curious if you look at the strength you saw in fiscal 21 and how that might support accelerated refresh opportunity into the future.
Yeah, Ben, I think it's different for different types of users. I mean, you have very early adopter kind of users that are very quick to jump on the latest technology that upgrade very frequently. And then you have people that are on the entire opposite side of that barbell. And most people are between those two points. And so I do think there were lots of units that are sold during the COVID period of time. And it's a huge opportunity for us as a company for more than one of the product categories.
That's it for me. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ben. I guess that's it. A replay of today's call will be available for 2 weeks on Apple.
All right. We're done with Apple. Now, the stock's actually moving a bit. It was red for the majority of the call. I guess the last 30 minutes of the call is when it kind of flipped and went green. Maybe the last 20 minutes. Up 3% right now, 245. I think it went green on one statement. When Tim Cook said the problem in China has to do with inventory, and that explains the 50% decline year over year over the demand, which he made it very clear it's an inventory issue now. Eventually, next quarter will prove if it's actually an inventory issue. But if that's the case, the $3 billion miss that they had 18 versus 21 expected in China might not be that big of a deal if it's more about them not having enough supply versus not having enough demand. Because they can obviously increase supply, but it's going to be hard to really get people to demand a new phone if they're just not interested in the new upgrade cycle. So if that's the case, I could definitely see the stock moving off that. Tim Cook did say that they have some special things cooking up soon. When he was asked about like the new form factors of the iPhone, one of the analysts was like, hey, like, I'm just going to be blunt here. Like, what are you going to do about this phone? Like, is there anything new that you're thinking about? And Tim Cook said, and I quote, I think there's a lot more to come, and I could not feel more optimistic about our product pipeline. So I think there's a lot of innovation left on the smartphone. I don't know, dude. I don't know what innovation is left on the smartphone, but then again, that's the whole point of innovation. It's something that no one's thinking of. A foldable phone to me is not really that innovative, but maybe that's the route they go. Maybe they increase the AI features on the phone. They did talk a lot about Apple Intelligence. Again, I'm not buying it. Cook mentioned the summarization of notifications is useful. It is not at all. We need agents, and we don't have agents on our consumer devices yet. And when we get agents, AKA telling Siri to literally do everything for you, that's when I think we see productivity. We're not seeing that yet. And until we see that, I don't think it's going to be easy for Apple to bring AI to the billions of users that they have. Ironically, Meta might end up bringing AI to those billions of users before Apple. So I think it's pumping on the China commentary that Tim Cook had, but everything else is not really a reason why I would see Apple gapping up 3% after hours. But it's up, which is good. I mean, look, if you're bullish on the stock market, you would want to see Apple go up. Apple going up is never bad for the market. So in general, seeing Apple get this 3% gain is not a horrible thing. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If you own Apple, congrats. It's up a bit, and it probably is another stock you continue to hold. They did buy $30 billion back of their stock. Again, they beat on EPS and revenue. The only thing is that there were some misses on iPhone revenues, China revenues, and services revenue. But outside of that, was not the worst quarter in the world. All right, that's it, dude. I usually have a lot of energy. I am tired, bro. That call put me to bed. Like, I'm legit. Like, it wasn't an Elon. Tim Cook's not the type of guy to give these bold, audacious type of ambitious ideas for the future of the company. And I know people criticize Elon for being overly hyperbolic, but we need some energy. And Tim Cook brought zero energy. Obviously, he was reading off a script and kind of just being a cookie cutter CEO. It would be nice to hear him kind of sound enthusiastic about Apple. And I guess that's just not how he governs the company. But didn't get too much excitement from his end for me. In terms of Intel and the rest of these stocks, let's just take a look at how they performed after hours. I'll have more commentary tomorrow on what happened on their earnings calls. KLA, that's up 3.85%. Deckers, wow, 15%. That one took a nasty hit on their earnings, even with a beat on the top and the bottom. Atlassian, great gain. Another SaaS player, 18.75%. Intel's up 2.5%, not bad. Visa, up another 2%. And then Apple right here, up 2.82% on the day. General Cody HC, thank you for the $10 super chat or $5 super chat. Amit, thoughts on how employee stock compensation for Palantir reaching the $70 price target threshold will impact EPS for earnings? So, we do have. Hold on, I'm looking at these super chats. I missed the super chat. Someone said, "Why are you such a shill for Elon?" And then they said, "Bro, don't ignore me." Why are you such a shill for Elon? How did someone pay $7 to say I'm a shill for Elon? That's got to be kind of crazy, right? That someone, I genuinely missed the super chat. I'm sorry. We were in the middle of the Apple thing. I didn't see it. Why are you such a shill for Elon? Then he doubles down, pays another $5 to tell me that I missed his super chat and that I'm a shill for Elon. Well, thank you for the super chats. I wouldn't say I'm a shill for Elon, but you can be entitled to your opinion. Now, in terms of Palantir, look, 21 to 79, we got that upgrade. My thoughts on the EPS share SARS thing is, and I've been saying this for the past couple of weeks now, I have no idea how much exactly Palantir is going to recognize of that expense. I believe it's going to be about $120 million. It might not be all of it. And so if it is $120 million, Palantir will miss on EPS by about 3 cents, and maybe that takes the stock down. But if that's priced in, and we just don't know if it's priced in. At this point, that's kind of a mystery. Then it might not matter if the revenue growth and the guidance is really good. So I could see a world where we fall to 65 off of a 95% EPS miss, and every headline sends that across the business wire. Or the market doesn't care. Palantir guides for 35% growth. And then you see the stock either flat, which is good because we're at $81. That's not bad to hold these levels, or potentially higher, 85, 90. If we break 90, that would be crazy. But if we can actually expand the multiple because of the increased value on the perception of growth, which is basically what Tesla has done, right? They're expanding their multiple because there is a perception that they will grow. Then that would be bullish. Now, I'm not going to read this entire thing again. I'll put this in the chat for those that want to read it. I did read it during the call today, but essentially Morningstar, which are they chasing the price 100%? If Palantir was $30 right now, they would not be quadrupling their price target from 21 to 79. It is a classic sort of Wall Street chase the price type of upgrade. But if you look at some of the vocabulary in this upgrade, they're talking about the commoditization of the LLM, and they're putting on a pedestal the implementation of the ontology within the LLM to derive business outcomes, which is basically what Karp has been saying for the past couple of years. So you've got the street kind of echoing Palantir's sentiment on what they feel the company should be worth and how you should value the company, even if they're chasing the price. And the question is just going to be on earnings. Can Palantir deliver the growth and the guidance that is going to get the street excited to really believe in the overarching thesis about the ontology versus just the LLM? So we're going to see. We're going to see how Palantir executes on earnings going into Monday. It's going to be great on Monday. I'll be live at 3:30. I'll have a bunch of people with me. So regardless of what happens to the stock, we will all be here as a community. And look, it's special, dude. We've been following this company since $7. So the idea that they've been able to not only increase the value of their enterprise to such an extent, not only has the media become obsessed with Palantir, which is crazy because it's like, there's not that many people a couple of years ago that were trying to create media about the company. Now every week CNBC is mentioning it, Bloomberg, all these guys. I mean, forget every week, every day there's articles coming out talking about Palantir because they know that the company is starting to get people's attention. And all of us, I think, are starting to believe this thing can really become much bigger than what we thought. And in order for them to get there, this will be another step in their journey on earnings. So, dude, it's very, very exciting. And again, a lot of people, regular people like myself, were able to get into this name. And I have not retired off Palantir or anything like that, but I met a lot of you guys, a bunch of you guys in the chat and at the meetup in New York, that literally have retired off Palantir, literally. And I was talking to a bunch of people, and when they said that to me in New York, they were like, "Yeah, dude, I bought it at 8, doubled down at 15, 17, and now I'm good. I'm chilling." And it's just like it's just so special, and it's Karp and his vision, his execution to bring it there. And I can tell you guys for a fact, Karp loves the fact that retail's gotten rich on this stock. I have been able to be privileged enough to speak to him over the past year. About 4 times I was able to meet him. And I quite frankly told him how much of an impact that he's had on retail. And he gets very, very happy knowing that people took a chance and believed in him. One thing that I know about Karp is that he values loyalty. He really values loyalty. It's one of the reasons why it's one of the reasons why Palantir's churn rate is, I think, like less than 20%, which is insane. Most tech companies have a much higher churn rate because people get in, they get a couple years of compensation, some RSUs, and then they get the hell out because they're bored. People don't leave Palantir. I met a guy who was at Palantir who's been there for 18 years. I met him at AIPCon back in September, and I was asking him why he stayed, and he was just like, the mission. Like, I love being here, right? So the fact that people have stayed at the company, the fact that people are so loyal to Karp, it is a reason why he is such a big fan of retail, and he goes out of his way to talk to retail because a lot of people have been pretty loyal to the company since $6-7 with their capital, hard-earned capital. We're talking about doctors, nurses, policemen, firemen, construction workers, people that are not making millions and millions of dollars working at some tech startup. We're talking about regular people with 9-to-5s that take a little bit of their money or took a little bit of their money back in 2022, dumped it into Palantir because they saw some vision in the company, and that, that investment has more than 10x at this point, which is absolutely incredible. So it is just another step on the journey. Stocks go up, stocks go down. I think a lot of retail has become more sophisticated about Palantir. They understand the valuation is extended. They understand that even management did not expect to get to $80 a couple of years ago, but we're here. It's a new reality. The market has fundamentally re-rated the narrative around this company. And as long as Palantir can deliver the execution when it comes to the overarching growth story and thesis, then I think regardless of what happens to the stock, it is going to be a successful investment over the next decade. So will be exciting to cover it. We do have some breaking news here, folks. I just got this breaking news. I'll look at the chat in a second. I see some of your comments. The person who said, why am I a shill for Elon? They should have said, why am I a shill for Karp? That would have, if you were going to waste $7, you might as well have said Karp versus Elon. But Figure AI, I am seeing this just now. CEO Brett Adcock shares, Figure has signed our second commercial customer. We now see the potential of shipping 100,000 humanoid robots. Wow. I did not know this. This was tweeted at 3:59. I am just getting on Twitter, given we were listening to that Apple call. Second commercial customer. So their first commercial customer, this is public, was BMW. And they were, working at BMW for the past year and a half. Now they have their second one. Here's what he says. We have two focuses internally, commercial markets and the home. On the commercial side, our strategy is to stay focused on a small number of clients. Early on, it's more efficient for us to grow vertically within a few clients than to spread out across many. We signed our first commercial customer, BMW, a year ago, and currently have a fleet of robots performing end-to-end operations. Our newest customer is one of the biggest US companies. Huh. It gives us the potential to ship at high volumes, which will drive cost reduction and AI data collection. Between both customers, we believe there is a path to 100,000 robots over the next 4 years. Okay, so if there's anything I know about Brett, I know that he likes to be in the news. Let's just say that. This guy really understands media very well. He's one of those founders that knows how to get people's attention. I think the only reason he's putting out this announcement today is because he heard Elon talk about the potential of bots yesterday, and he wants to get some of the coverage from the media when it comes to the humanoid robotics sector. That is the only reason I think he's sharing this today. I don't think literally on January 30th, they signed their second commercial customer. I think they probably signed whatever customer this is a long time ago, but he's announcing it now because he's trying to tap into the media coverage, which is smart. But it seems like that's what he's doing right here. He says, last week, we successfully began running an end-to-end neural network on the new client's use case. Learning the use case with AI is the only path here, as heuristics would be impossible to write. And every time I see these policies running, it feels like pure magic. Next steps, we'll keep giving updates as we make progress here. We're working on training the robot on how to do use case work at a high speed and high performance. And then you can follow Figure for updates. Dude, I wish he said, by the way, we're using a ton of NVIDIA chips. If he had just said, by the way, for these 100,000 robots, we need a ton of NVIDIA chips. If he put that there, that would have been amazing. That would have been a nice little headline for NVIDIA. But that's pretty cool. Our newest customer is one of the biggest US companies. Now, this is not bearish Tesla at all. This is bullish humanoid robotics. The reason Tesla doesn't need a massive customer is because they are a customer. This is what Elon said yesterday, that there's thousands of robots inside of Tesla internally working on this stuff. Tesla doesn't need to work with BMW, because they're already producing cars. So when it comes to finding a use case and perfecting and simultaneously producing the actual outcomes that are necessary for these robots to be effective, the best use case for Tesla is to build a Tesla. So Figure and Apptronic and all these other startups have the harder part of finding a customer to convince to actually use these as pilots and then ultimately develop a working relationship with. Tesla doesn't have to do any of that. They can just train it internally. And then Elon did say by the second half of 2026, they think they can start shipping to other clients. If Brett Adcock is saying, wait a second, we already have 2 commercial clients and we can ship 100,000 robots to them over the next 4 years, I would imagine Elon's going to match that and probably take it even higher over the next 4 years. That's probably why he gave the timeline for 2026 yesterday. And if that's the case, the bots should be here. The bots should be here. Yes, the competition is good for Tesla. I would say it's great for Tesla. A, it makes Tesla work harder. B, it expands the market. Because if Figure can get customers to start buying their robots, you damn sure bet other companies are going to want to work with Elon. First of all, because it's Elon, and other companies would love the attention of being associated with Tesla's humanoid bot. Like, companies would just love that coverage. And if the bot actually can be useful, there's going to be a lot of demand. And Elon did say yesterday, demand is not going to be a concern at all. So there you go. There you go. I definitely think Brett's announcing this, though, because of what Elon said yesterday. He's very good at media, bro. He's very good at media. He understands media very well. And I think that's why he's doing this right here. So bullish overall, the humanoid robotic space. And it looks like it's going to be, hopefully, a sector that grows over the long term. Okay, some super chats. Chris, thank you for the $10 super chat. Happy to have your stream as my background music. I love it, Chris. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the $10 super chat. And I like your last name, Jomo. It's a great last name. Thank you, Chris Jomo. Appreciate it. And General Cody HC, thank you for the $10 super chat as well. Thanks, brother. Keep up the great content. Palantir to the moon. And let's see if we can get closer to the moon on Monday after earnings as well. You guys are saying it's Amazon? Amazon. What if it's like one of the biggest US companies? What if it's like, I don't know. So what's a US company that needs robots? It could be Amazon. It could be Walmart. It could be another car manufacturer outside of BMW. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be one of the big warehouse companies that actually has a use case for robots. Amazon is an obvious answer, but I think there's other ones that could be up there. Is Figure producing at 20K a bot? I have no idea. I would imagine it has to be way more than 20K. The reason Elon said 20K is because he thinks at economies of scale, they can actually get to that price. Figure has no economies of scale. Figure barely has any factories. So I don't think they're producing at 20,000 a robot, but eventually, hopefully they can get there. But see, that's another advantage for Tesla. Tesla has the vertical integration already. All they need to do is get it started and make sure the robots are trained. And once they can start producing, they can get those costs down dramatically, which is why it's very beneficial for Tesla. Okay, cool. So that was some breaking news, but going back to Palantir again, I'm going to be excited for Monday. The street is expecting, let me tell you guys what the street's expecting. They're expecting 3 cents a share. So the estimates did go down. I thought it was 6 cents a share. It's actually down to 3 cents a share. I checked today on Seeking Alpha. And they're expecting $776 million of revenue, which would be about 26% growth, I think, roundabout. If Palantir can come in with about 815 million of revenue and get to 30% growth, that would be amazing. And if they come in with 1 cent because of SARS, obviously that would suck because of the algorithms that might take it down. But if that's the reason it dips because of the 1 cent EPS miss, I would buy that dip pretty quickly. I wouldn't be too scared to buy that dip. So we're going to see. Mike, yeah, we just covered the headline, Mike. I just saw it just now on Twitter that Figure signed their second commercial customer. And I guess we'll find out over the coming months who that customer is. So yeah, Palantir on Monday. It's going to be exciting. Okay, so let's end on this question. If Palantir were to fall at $6 to $65, so let's say Palantir falls, was that 18%? What would that retracement be? A little bit less than that. 81 minus 65. That would be 19%, 19.7%. What would your raw reaction be if Palantir falls? Let's say 20%. If Palantir falls 20% on earnings, what would your raw reaction be? Even if it's a justified or low growth type of reason, let's say it's not the SARS. Like if it's a legit reason they fall 20%, what would your reaction be? So Palantir falls 20%. Let's do the choices. Let's do give me the dip. Let's do selling. Let's do yeah, give me the dip or selling. Let's do that. Those are our options right here. Let's do that for now. Look, even if it is a legit reason, even if it's one of those things where like the quarter sucks when it comes to revenue growth, companies are allowed to have bad quarters. Companies, I mean, look at Tesla. It was a really crappy quarter that Tesla just had. But they painted a vision of the future. Now, I don't think Palantir is going to have a bad quarter, A, because they already had 2 years of bad quarters, right? We went through that phase. B, I think the AI demand thesis is very, very strong, and Palantir is not going to mess that up going into Q4 of 2024. Why do I say that as well? Well, let's look at the PR for earnings in 2024 on the third quarter. The first sentence that was on this earnings, people forget about this, was AI demand that won't slow down. Palantir reports revenue growth above consensus estimates on, quote, AI demand that won't slow down. There's no way AI demand that's not slowing down slows down in Q4. Like, logically, that doesn't make sense to me. Maybe Palantir doesn't have as much revenue growth, but that doesn't mean AI demand is slowing down. And I think there would be a reason if the revenue growth is lacking to explain why they weren't able to close that many deals. But I do think they're going to put up some pretty good numbers because it can't just go from AI demand that's not slowing down to, yeah, we don't see demand. Like if Palantir messes up earnings, it's not going to be a question of them not having the demand. It's going to be more so a question of them not being able to close deals, which might be an execution question. But they've been executing so well that I don't think it's going to be an execution issue. I think, honestly, the dip is going to happen because of the SARS expense, if that's not fully priced up. So, yeah, we're a bunch of degens, bro. 86% of you said, give me the dip. 86% of you said, give me the freaking dip. Dude, give me the dip too. Give me the dip too. And you know, the reason I would say give me the dip is because this DeepSeek thing has only highlighted it's not about the LLM. It's about the implementation. It's about the use case. Such a simple thesis, but it's true. And DeepSeek woke up the world again to realizing that if China can replicate these models, OpenAI isn't special. But maybe SoftBank knows something that we don't know, which is why they're putting in another $25 billion in. There would have to be something horrendous in earnings to sell. I mean, to sell a company that's just beginning its growth trajectory, that's led by one of the most unique CEOs of all time, like to actually sell, there would have to be something. Like if you're taking profits, that's fine, but there would have to be something so horrendous in earnings to cause that to happen. And I can't imagine that happening this quarter. So I think if there's a dip, it might be algorithmic. And if there is a dip because of some level of lack of growth, then we just have to look into it. But it would be one of the reasons to get more shares at the end of the day, because I think all of us would like to own more about this company as well. Someone said, would Palantir ever work with Figure? I think it's possible, but the thing is, again, Palantir creates software operating systems. I don't know if Figure needs an operating. I mean, I'm sure they definitely need it. The question is, are they doing a Tesla where they're fully vertically integrated? So Tesla would never use Palantir. Well, never say never, but the reason Tesla has never used Palantir or a lot of third-party software vendors is because they're so vertically integrated. And Farzad, who actually worked at Tesla a couple of years ago, he used to talk about how all their business intelligence tools, like the stuff that you pay Salesforce for, Tesla has built themselves. But Palantir does work with companies that do work with Tesla, like Panasonic, that helps build the batteries for Tesla, because Panasonic is not vertically integrated, and they actually do need to spend on software to be able to make their business more effective. So I don't know if Figure is going down the vertical integration route or they're outsourcing third-party vendors for software. But is there a world they could work together? Yeah. Is that going to happen anytime soon? I guess we'll have to find out going into the future. Robinhood is up after hours as well. Yeah, there is a new ticker launching tomorrow, ROBN. That's going to be a 2x leveraged Robinhood ETF. Robinhood right here, 53.35. I'm probably not investing in it. I don't know, dude. I just don't love the leveraged ETFs. They've never been my jam. A lot of people use them to get leverage. There's no problem with that. It's just you have to be super, super careful because sometimes they don't necessarily work out. So, but the fact that that's launching means that there's just more demand for Robinhood, the stock. Same thing happened with Palantir, right? PITR. I never got into that one either. But that launched when Palantir was like 35. And that has done very well. PTIR. Dude, how well has that done? PTIR stock. I didn't touch this thing at 35, but it's up 483% over the past year. Obviously, because Palantir went up like 2.5x from that range. So maybe that could happen again with this Hood ETF, but we're going to have to see if that momentum can keep continuing. Apple right here up 3.2%. NVIDIA's down 1.2%. Tesla's up a little bit after hours. Vistra's up a little bit. And then Palantir right here up 0.10% after hours as well. Real Adventures, thank you for the $5 super chat. Can we look at Palantir options for next week and come up with a strategy for people who might want to play it on put sells, something we feel is safe? Well, again, you have to ask yourself a question. What strike are you comfortable buying Palantir at? The strategy on selling puts on a name you want to own is that you have to be so happy to be assigned the shares. Otherwise, you're going to feel regret when you sell that put if you get assigned. So if you're not happy to buy Palantir at 70, don't sell the $70 put. If you're not happy to buy it at 65, don't sell the $65 put. But if you're happy at 68, 69 bucks and you feel like it's worth getting another 100 shares, that's where you sell the put, even if the premium is not that good. Because if you do get assigned, you need to be okay with getting those shares. I think a lot of put sellers mess up, and I've been in this situation as well, where you sell a put on a stock because you want the premium. You don't realize the stock could go below that strike, and then you get assigned, and you're like, you don't even want the stock anymore, and now you're bag holding with no reason for bag holding because you never had a thesis in the first place. So I would be a little bit more conservative on your strikes just to make sure you're comfortable buying shares at those levels. But that would be the strategy going into earnings if you do want to sell puts on Palantir. Cool. All right, I guess that's it. I guess that is it for today. Drago says, I'll sell a few shares once my Palantir holdings hit 1 million. That's at 165. Well, okay, so that means you have That means you have 6,000 shares, basically. 6,000 shares. Dude, I think it is very possible for this company to be one of those companies over the next decade. But it's one you got to be on for the journey and sell. And, the other thing about Palantir that's really interesting as well is we haven't really experienced a massive drawdown either, right? Because the Tesla folks, they went from 50 to 400 in the course of 2 years, and then they fell all the way back down to 100 in 2022. So, that was a hell of a drawdown. And then they got back to 300, and then last April, they fell back to 130, right? So you talk about a stock that's been through ups and downs. Palantir has been through one major down from 45 to 6, but that was not Palantir falling. That was the entire market falling. And I know the entire market fell and Tesla fell as well, but Tesla was in a very unique position after just 20xing, and then interest rates started to rise up. Tesla, a car company, it's not good when interest rates go up. Palantir should have never been $45 in 2021. That was just ridiculous. It was a $100 billion company. And it was like 5 months after they went public. That's how crazy 2021 was. So that drawdown was bad, but it was one of the most expected drawdowns ever, obviously saying that in hindsight. Now, I don't know how the community would handle a 50% drawdown, because Tesla's had multiple 60% drawdowns over the past 3 years. Palantir hasn't had any outside of 2022, which again, I'm not really counting because that was the whole market. So for Palantir, the stock individually, like what I'm trying to say is Palantir shareholders have not felt the pain of seeing millions of dollars that you're up go to like tens of thousands of dollars that you're up, or maybe, hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're up based on how bad of a decline, and then see everyone else celebrating with their stocks going up. Tesla shareholders have been through that multiple times. For the far majority of last year, everyone was making money except Tesla shareholders. So it's like, we have not had that happen to the Palantir community. Now, is there a reason for that to happen going into Q4? I don't think so, because I think earnings are going to be good. I think the growth is going to be good. And as long as the market is not expecting like 60 or 70% growth or some ridiculous number, if they're going to be okay with 30 to 40% growth, I think Palantir can deliver that. Or at least 30 to 35%, right? Maybe 40% comes later in the year as they raise guidance. So if that's the case, and we got interest rates coming down, and we got a macro that's developing, and we got a Trump administration that's very friendly to the defense contract software providers, there's a lot of tailwinds for Palantir. And then obviously you've got Karp, who's able to influence millions and millions of people and get them to believe in a vision, which, as we can see, listening to these earnings calls, it's very important for someone to actually get you to care. Karp knows how to do that. And as a result, I think that can continue to give Palantir more momentum. Amit, would you buy OpenAI when it goes public? I have no idea. It really depends, dude. I have no clue. Again, maybe there's something about OpenAI that we don't know anything about. Because if they're raising at a $350 billion valuation without being profitable, here's a stat for you guys. OpenAI, if they raise at $340 billion, which is the rumor today from the Wall Street Journal, they'd be worth the same as SpaceX. You got a company trying to send rockets to Mars. You got Starlink that's growing like crazy. And then you have an LLM commodity that is really good in OpenAI, but Grok and Gemini and Anthropic and DeepSeek are not that far behind. That's worth $350 billion. Either we're all missing something and these guys are working on something that we don't even understand, or it's one of the most highly valued startups that shouldn't be valued at this level. And if OpenAI gets to $350 billion, what does that mean for Palantir, which is actually profitable, delivering real use cases, growing at 30%, intertwined with the most sophisticated government agencies in the world, and has one of the most unique cultures on the planet when it comes to the company and their ability to actually keep employees and get people to fall in love with their mission? I don't know. If anything, maybe that helps Palantir if OpenAI raises at that level. But it is going to be interesting to see how the market ends up interpreting these stocks over the coming months. All right, guys, I think that is it for me. We are done for today. We'll be back tomorrow on the Market Open. Tomorrow's Friday. It's been a long week, but a fun week with all of these companies as they have reported. Palantir right here after hours, 81.29, up a little bit on the after hours session, is up 2% on the day. NVIDIA is down 1%. Robinhood up another 0.5% after hours. Really nice, 53.30. Tesla up 1/3%. Vistra up 0.5%. MicroStrategy up 1/3%. S&P 500 up 0.5%. You got Grab up a little bit, about 0.43% after hours as well. Google's up 0.11, and then we got Apple, which was the biggest one that reported today, is up 3% after hours, 244.50 currently right now. All right. I think that's it. I think that is it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you guys. We will be back tomorrow on the Market Open. And Carp will be live on CNBC at 11. They weren't able to do it today because of the Trump press conference that delayed it, but we'll cover it tomorrow at 11 a.m. And we'll keep going from there. So, all right. Love you all. Thank you, everybody. I will see you guys tomorrow on the Market Open. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.